of you. Please take your seats. We're going to get ready to start our program in the next 5 minutes or so, okay? shirt.
Good morning, good morning. I said good morning, good morning. Y'all ready for day 2? I said y'all ready for day 2? All right. Well, my name is Kiara Daniels, and I am so excited to be here this morning. I'm so excited to see so many faces here in the name of Black liberation, Black justice, and what that means for us in this time. And I was hearing so much about what you all were learning yesterday, and I'm really excited in particular that we are not just learning the stories that happen outside of kind of our city, outside of our county. We're not just learning the stories that are happening that happened in Montgomery, but we're learning what happened here, well, not now, but in 1969, right? And the things that they were fighting for in 1969, police brutality, we are fighting for that today. And so, I guess I should introduce myself first. Again, my name is Kiara Daniels. I am a Tacoma City Council member. If you live anywhere in the city limits, that means I represent you. And because I am one of the only young elected Black officials in the area, if you're in the county, I represent you too, likely, right? I represent young people, I represent Black people, I represent people of color in general, and anybody who has been disenfranchised by our system. So I'm in a lot of rooms, and I am advocating for us all the time. One of the things I wanted to bring to you guys today was just a little bit about my story, right? I have what I would think is an untraditional path to leadership. I'm from Tacoma. I grew up in Hilltop, Central Tacoma, South End, right? I was a really regular kid. I didn't want to go to school, just like most other kids, right? I was worried about working. I wanted to make money. I wasn't worried about justice. I was kind of on my own thing. I found history to be interesting, but I didn't get to learn about my history in school. I got lucky and my mother went to the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus. Any graduates in here? Anybody? No? Whoop! One in the back. And they have a little bit of a non-traditional style education, right? They studied Howard Zinn for history, right? And in school, we learn about our social studies. We learn about Robert, golly, see, it escapes me, right? But what they don't teach you is about the social justice warriors that we have in history. They tell you that, what is the lady that was deaf and blind? Oh my goodness. Helen Keller, right? What was the story about Helen Keller? She's deaf and she's blind. That's all you remember, right? Helen Keller was a social justice warrior. She was one of the first ones, right? Even with the things that she was working through, and those are the parts of history that we don't get to hear. We definitely don't get to hear our Black history. We don't get to hear the stories about the people in our community, our pastors. We don't get to hear about all of the people that really fought just so we could be in colleges, so we can participate in banking, right? So that we can, vote. That's the big one, right? Those were the big things that they were fighting for back then. And as a young person now, sometimes I get challenged, right? By learning about our past and watching our participation in voting as young people, right? And everybody wants to beat us over the head. They want to say, you guys got to go out and vote. But has anybody ever felt like, for what? Maybe my vote doesn't matter. Maybe, at the federal level, right? They don't really care about what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what happens when I put my vote in. And I would just beg us to think about our local elections here today, and because that's what matters. That's really what controls our life. That controls life, death. If your friends, our judges control if our friends are going to go to jail, if they're not going to go to jail, if they get 20 years or if they get to do some kind of reciprocity. Our local prosecutors matter. Our lawyers matter. Our Black realtors matter, right? We have to be represented in all of these spaces. And when we watch the news and we see that consistently our lives don't matter, our voices don't matter, it's really easy to be disengaged. And what I would say is that I've been on city council 6 months now, and in those 6 months, there are times where I thought that my voice didn't matter at the table, and just being there, I know that my voice does matter. There are conversations about how much jail time is somebody going to get, right? And nobody there is young and from Tacoma. Nobody understands. Nobody has friends that are going to be hurt by some of the things that we do and the decisions that we make or don't make. When we decide if we're going to build more housing, that affects everybody in this room, right? We have to make more, and there are people fighting every day to make sure that we don't have enough. I don't care if we have an affordable place to live. No, there are people there that literally do not care and that are fighting every day to make sure that we stay at the status quo, right? And so it's really important when we think about, thinking about the social justice side, leaving a legacy and really going into what your position is, right? Everybody doesn't want to be a city council member. Everybody doesn't want to be on the front lines with the pickets, right? And so what I would ask of us today is if we find, what is the thing that you like to do, right? Every politician, every person in leadership needs a writer. Everybody needs someone researching. Everyone needs somebody coming up with really good creative ideas to do this work, right? We need judges. Again, I keep bringing up realtors because we really need mindful people in this business. Housing, I would say, is going to be our, if it is not for all of us now, it is our number one issue of our time, besides police accountability and general other economy things. So I will leave it at that. A couple other things. I know you wanted me to talk about my journey a little bit, but really, my journey came from having passion, right? I was in high school and I didn't like rules. That was my passion for wanting to be in leadership. I did not like rules. And if you couldn't tell me why a rule made sense, I wasn't going to follow it. But if I could understand why we have those and what does that mean to me and how does that make our community better, I might follow it, or I might decide that I want to run for office so that I can make my own rules, right? And so, working with kids was where I started, and then I started learning about housing, right? Our kids are moving around, and you can't really work with kids if they're, every day they're disappearing and they're going further and further out in the county, right, where they don't have resources. And I would say that pushed me into wanting to do something. In 2020, I was working in housing and I was working in small business. And I always said that I was going to do something about housing before I die. That's what I'm going to do. We're going to get people off the streets. And I was doing it a little bit, right, passively. But I knew that it was going to be a 10, 20-year journey. And I don't know that I was really invigorated at that point. I knew I was making some kind of an impact, but really I knew that I needed to do something bigger. And in 2020, I have a cousin who has congestive heart failure. And, because of what he looks like, because he looks like a regular person, he couldn't get Social Security. And so he was living in a shelter. He's not on drugs. This is just a regular guy, right? He's not on drugs. Like most people think that people live in shelters or that's where they want to be, and that's not always the case, right? And in 2020, he died in a shelter. And one of the things that, for me, that did was said, okay, this issue is really life or death, right? My cousin was going to pass away anyway, but he should have passed away in his own home. He should have passed away with family. He should have passed away in a way that gave him dignity, right? And that was all he wanted, was to have his own place to live. And I can remember those things. And that was our last conversation at the Housing Authority, right? Was talking about how long the list was. It was a 5-year list at this time, and I think it's probably 5 to 9 years, right? And I was there working on housing, and so we're meeting and we are colliding and we're talking about issues. I'm working on one and he's suffering from one. And I didn't know it at that moment, but that was the last time I would see him. And so circle to November of that year, somebody asked me if I thought about running for office, and every single time I would say no, absolutely not. I have no interest. I like doing what I'm doing. I stay in my own lane. I like being second. I don't want to change my friends. I like listening to Mozzie. I like listening I like to do what I want to do, right? You do not have to change yourself. You can be exactly who you are. And I knew at that moment that I could hear that conversation in my head. I could think about those times, and I was watching the Home in Tacoma sessions happen, right, where people are advocating for less housing, and I didn't see anybody that was on there that was really passionate, and I mean like life or death, people that I know will die if we don't do this, right? And so that became my mission, and now that I'm here, the mission has expanded so much, right? It's not just sheltering. This is about our economy. This is about access to Black wealth. This is about how do we survive, and not only just survive, because we've been surviving for a while, right? We had some giants here yesterday that worked in different places to make sure we survive, but I would beg to say that we can thrive. And it's going to take all of us at the table. I think that we can experience a life where we have enough, where we have access to college, where we have access to, or whatever we want to do, right? Where we have access to affordable housing, where we have access to jobs, and where we feel like we can be safe in our communities from not only each other, because other people are experiencing poverty, but from police and from the things that, from general racism, right? Because it exists everywhere. So, I know you guys are working on it today. I heard you guys were making an updated blueprint. We definitely need that, and I would say that in that blueprint, we had, you heard yesterday, we had people that were, I think you had Tom Dixon here, right? I didn't have Tom Dixon. Oh, you guys were just learning about Tom Dixon. Okay, you had Lyle, right? Lyle was a rebel rouser, and then he started working for the Housing Authority way, way, way later in life. You had Jim Walton, who started doing social justice and then was our first Black city manager. These are pivotal positions. These people control how we move about our lives, and I would just say that as we think about our blueprints, we think about what legacy that you're going to leave individually. What will you do for your future grandkids, your future grandnieces? What will they thank you for in 30 years, in 60 years? What will be the thing that we leave behind that they will thank us later for? Those are the things that I think about as I think about my legacy, and I hope that you do too. And I'm here this morning to make sure that we do two things. I said vote already, that's really important, but also please, 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 I got 4 years. I need somebody to come take my spot. We have so many positions open. Perfect. If I just had one person, I knew I was going to have one. That calling is not going to go away. And if we just have, if I leave here with just one person today, encourage that they could be themselves and that they can do it from wherever they are at in life, then I will have won. That is exactly what I'm here for today. So I have cards. If you need access to really anything, please, 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 please reach out and enjoy your second day of Symposium.
Oh my gosh, guys, give another round of applause for our council member Daniels, okay? When I was asked who should open day 2 of the Freedom Summer Symposium, instantly I was like, we need Councilmember Daniels up here. I mean, I didn't know Councilmember Daniels personally. I just saw her from afar. Of course, saw her in the News Tribune when she was running her campaign. I was like, wow, this woman looks like me. Like, literally the hoops, the hair, the skin tone, I mean, everything, and representation matters, you know? I mean, growing up, I'm born and raised in Seattle, and so I'm used to being the only Black girl in my classroom. I'm used to not having Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black politicians, people that look like me in these positions of power. So when I did finally move to Tacoma and saw that we had not just one, but we have 2 people of color on our council, on our city council officials. Our mayor is black and has been black for a while now. I mean, it means a lot and it's different. And so if anything's gonna get you guys inspired and revved up with the, courage to really step out in these leadership roles, it's seeing people like Councilmember Daniels doing it, right? And reaching back to pull us along. So thank you so much for just opening up day 2. I love you. Of course, now we know each other and we're homegirls, but it's just awesome to have people like this in your circle. So please, reach out, stay connected. She's welcoming, doors open. For those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Anjanae Slaughter. I am the Director of Community Engagement for the IBJ. And as Carol, our founder, likes to call me her little mini-me or her right hand, right? I've been with the IBJ serving as the young adult voice since our birth back in 2019. And really my favorite part of this role is that I'm able to make space for other people that also look like me and that are passionate about their community, in whatever shape or form that might look like. So today is the Young Adult Takeover. I mean, this is day 2. This is where we take the stage, where we share our ideas to everyone here in the room, and hopefully those that are leaders in the room will grab on to one of these young, passionate adults that are stepping out in these leadership roles in their community. So again, the goal and the example that we're hoping to inspire all of you guys today is that you guys are already leaders. You guys are already doing exactly what you guys should be doing just by sitting here in this room. And what the IBJ wants to do is just put the resources, literally the resources behind you so that you guys can continue your efforts in your community. So for those of you all that missed yesterday, the IBJ is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose vision is true justice with no exceptions, right? Our mission is to relentlessly pursue equity and justice for all with a Black and specifically African American perspective as first priority. Because as we all know in Washington State, I mean, there's been tons of disparity studies. We got housing disparity studies, we got employment disparity, education disparity, and African Americans, we continue to be on the bottom of all of those graphs. And so the IBJ believes that if we raise the tide for those that are on the bottom, indirectly, everybody is going to have a better access to happiness, to wealth, to life, right? So that's why we specifically focus on being Black, and unapologetically as that. I mean, you see our name is the Institute for Black Justice. I want you all to take that same, pride with you in your own circles, right? There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm going to stand strong for African American people, or I'm going to stand strong for whatever you're passionate about, whatever community that you're from. Just have that courage to step out and to call out injustice. Okay, our IBJ in this year's symposium is supported by the general gifts of individuals like yourselves and by our sponsors. I would be wrong to not thank our sponsors. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much, Carol Mitchell. If you could just stand up for us, please. This is our founder. This is the woman that birthed the IBJ. We would not be here without Miss Carol. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To our title sponsors, to the Greater Tacoma Community Foundation, please, Megan, stand up for us. We just want to thank you. She's representing the GTCF today, and we'll be speaking a little bit later on. Our freedom fighters, the United Way of Pierce County. Art, I'm not going to forget about you. Art, could you stand up for us? This guy is always behind the scenes, making all the technical work happen. So thank you so much, Art, for being here today. I want to thank Andre. I want to thank Keisha Ray. I want to thank Malik. Can you guys stand up? These are our coaches that are helping our teams get together and produce these wonderful projects and strategies around social justice. Thank you guys, thank you, thank you. And then today, of course, we'll hear later from Tremaine. If you stand up, Tremaine, I can't leave you out. Come on, this is our keynote speaker. All right, you guys are gonna hear from all of these guys today. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this. So, as it was mentioned by Councilmember Daniels earlier, the theme of this year's symposium and design challenge is remembering the Mother's Day uprising. And not only just remembering it, but today we're going to be updating that blueprint for Black excellence. It's really anchored in the historical moment of May 11, 1969, when youth and young adults in the Tacoma Hilltop took to the streets to make their demands for equal rights and representation known. Right, yesterday, our legacy builders, which I see one of them in the audience today, Mr. Amir Mateen. You want to just wave for us? Thank you so much for joining us for day 2. We heard their stories, you know, I mean, they faced a lot of the similar injustice that we're currently facing now, where we're just not given the equal right and opportunity to happiness, to wealth, to prosperity, right? But with that, we learned a lot from them. We learned that, you know, to come together, to remember your neighbor when we're talking about social justice. It's not just for ourselves, but it's for the people that we're bringing along with us. And so our ACEs, which ACE is an acronym for Activists Cultivating Equitable Strategies. This is our young adult leadership program, where they're going to come today and they're going to update this blueprint and offer strategies to further foster that Black excellence today in 2022. Again, this is our leadership development cohort, which we feature each year in the annual Freedom Summer Symposium. This is our big event. This is our big call to action. This is where we come out and we share our ideas with the community through both paid and unpaid opportunities, including, of course, our design challenge. So to give you a little bit more context and detail on what that work looks like, over the past 3 weeks, the ACES cohorts have been working in small teams, using human-centered design to generate ideas for updating the 1969 Blueprint for Black Excellence. I want to take a moment to thank our academic partners, including the University of Washington Tacoma's Global Innovation and Design Lab, Dr. Divya McMillan, who provided the orientation, our Dr. Caroline Weiss, who's here with us today. If you don't mind just waving your hand, thank you so much, from the University of Puget Sound, and Dr. Michael Craw from Evergreen Tacoma, who'll be stepping in as our academic facilitators and guides. Okay, so thank you to everyone. I just wouldn't be right to start today off without thanking all of the people that made this happen. All right, and before I hand the mic off to our first performer, which, you know, we have to make this fun. We're trying to gear this event, this 2 days, right, to young adults and to seasoned adults. And the way to do that is by having, you know, some performers. I do, just before I hand it off, I feel it's appropriate to acknowledge that we are on traditional homelands of the Puyallup tribe. The Puyallup people have lived and stewarded these lands since the beginning of time and continue to do so today. We also want to pause to remember our country is built on the labor of people of African origin who were kidnapped, enslaved, dehumanized, and oppressed for centuries. We recognize the continued contribution of their survivors, including myself and definitely some of you guys. We also want to acknowledge all immigrant labor, including voluntary and involuntary, trafficked, forced, documented, and undocumented people who contribute to the building of this country and who continue to serve in our labor force. So now, finally, I personally want to acknowledge the paid and volunteer team at the IBJ and PLU's hospitality department and IT staff and camera operators. Hey, who made this event happen today? Please clap it up for them. All right. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the beautiful and talented Miss Tuya to perform a couple songs for us.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tuya. That stands for The World Is Yours Always. I am 1/3 of the music collective No Idle Music. We are a DIY collective, so we produce all of our music. We engineer in-house. We write all of our songs. We perform in our own shows, and we also produce all of our videos, photos, like you see my photo here that was taken by my fellow collective member. If you'd like more information about us, we are at noidlemusic.com. And I'm going to sing some love songs. I know everybody loves love songs, so. It's Sunday on days. Your energy is vibrating. And if the time arises, maybe we can ride the same frequency. Frequently, I forget how sweet it is to share a kiss when I'm missing you. The morning September got missing. What can I do? What can I do? Buzzing, 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 buzzing. Yeah, touch some mesmerizing, and you never surprise me, honeybee. I know that it won't last. Is it a cool night? I want you right back to be with me, just to be with me. Always be messed up, just down for the hell of it, just drunk, getting wrapped up in the moment. I'm stuck and I can't come down. When it's you around, messed up, just down for the hell of it, just drunk, getting wrapped up in the moment. I'm stuck and I can't come down. When it's you around, buzzing, buzzing. That song's called Honeybee. Sorry. The name of this song is called Away. This is one of the first songs that I ever wrote, and it was actually a freestyle. Energy filling things I would never say, but I just can't hold on. Sunrise, heat waves, even in the middle of a winter day, flowing through. He come around, shut it down, walking like a god through the street and all over town. No, they hate 'cause they can't compensate, no matter what they can't take is crown. He won't come around when I know he can't stay, but he'll take a piece of me when you're walking away, 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 away. I guess you like it that way, 'cause you just wanna walk on the line all the time. You like it that way, 'cause then you never have to make up your mind. You make it hard for me to make up my mind. It's so simple, what's the issue? Love could be us, but you're playing too many games. Many games you play. There's so many things to say, but instead you like running away, away, away. Many This song is called Afronauts, and this is the first beat I ever self-produced. It's hot outside, all I wanna do is get up in your cotton, ride round the corner of the street and maybe hit the park. I'm watching me, and now it's getting dark. We can trust the light, we can make it up as we go. Can't be playing when it's time to roll. If you skip over my lines, I'll take it personal. If you got a dream, I got a dollar, and we can have it all. And if this conscious call got you feeling right, I wanna hear the universe inside. Yeah. And if this conscious call got you feeling, I wanna hear yours. We can float to outer space. I can see another galaxy within your face. You can feel me all around. You know I love the taste. Turn off the cell phone. Everybody else can wait. Tell me, can you picture this? I can see another galaxy within your kiss. Every thought that's in my head will end up on your lips. Every thought that's in my head will end up on your lips. If you got a dream, I got a dollar, and we can have it all. If this conscious call got you feeling right, I wanna hear the universe inside. If you got a dollar, and if this conscious call got you feeling, I wanna hear the universe inside. Compliment, it's a compliment. A double entendre ensemble with an ambiance you're subconscious with, and a confidence nothing fonder with. I'm fond of it. Took a dive in your macrocosmos when I caught in honest with your consciousness, and now I'm wrapped in your afronauts where earth shines in your moonlit irises. Kept interested with your perceptive introspection, stepped in to interrupt to your perceptions, trusted the Symposium like, hey, hey, hey. If this conscious call got you feeling, I wanna hear the universe inside. Thank you.
Wow. Oh my God. Keep the claps going because that was just so good. That was just so good. I first heard Tuya at an open mic off of South Tacoma Way in Tacoma, and I was like, wow, why aren't you on bigger stages? We need to get you on bigger stages. And that's just who I am. Anytime I'm just a huge supporter. I just love everyone and want to just encourage everyone or help everyone, right, get to their goals. And as it was briefly said before, like, social justice isn't just running for office. It's not, you can be a social justice advocate in your music. You can do, in whatever your passion is. You want to work on cars, you want to do, I'm in real estate, right? Because I believe that the true liberation for our people is through stability, is through financial freedom, is through wealth building. So I step into, I love what I do in real estate, but I'll never leave out the social justice part of it. I'm definitely trying to work to increase Black homeownership in every space that I'm in. And whatever and that's what's going to keep you motivated. I think we heard that yesterday from Lyle. He said, if you're burnt out, well, you're just doing the wrong thing. You need to figure out what you love to do, if it's painting or singing or writing, or maybe it is public speaking. Do that, put your love and your heart into it, and just remain a leader. Remain, back it in equity and in justice. That's what the IBJ, we want to help support. So whatever you guys are passionate about, and if it's singing, we definitely got a spot for you. So thank you again so much, Tuia, for your beautiful voice and spirit just gracing us today. I'd like to now introduce and welcome Megan Sukes to the stage. Please correct me if I'm pronouncing your name. Okay, good, because my name is very unique, and so the least we can do is get each other's names right. But Megan is the she's the Chief Strategy and Communications Director for the Greater Tacoma Community Foundation, and she's here to share some words on the power of philanthropy. Please give it up for Megan.
Thank you so much. I'm Megan Sukes. I like to tell people my maiden name was Megan Jackson, and I had to take my husband's name because I worked in public radio, and that was the only way I could compete with people like Silvio Poggioli. I was like, I'm never going to make it if I don't have an interesting name. So it's delightful to have people ask me how to pronounce it. I'm speaking on behalf of Greater Tacoma Community Foundation, but I bring to my work my own life experiences. I was born a talkative child in North Carolina. And my voice is really what carried me through. That was my opportunity all the way from rural North Carolina to where I am now. I was in speech contests, I moved into theater, and then I was able to get into public radio in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And if you know anything about public radio, you know we do a lot of asking for money and say, we need you to keep this radio station going. Well, our radio station didn't get the money and it shut down. So that happens. And I think a lot of people who work in nonprofits know about that tension, that urgency. The mission can make the world change, but you need people who can support you. The nice thing is that loss in Eastern North Carolina is what inspired me to come out here to the Northwest in 1999. And some of it was that I saw in the Northwest and I have told people back in North Carolina, in North Carolina we want change. It's not that we're saying we don't want it. We want it, but the stories we tell kind of keep us bound in that. The stories say, and this is how it is and how it always shall be. And I looked out to the Northwest and I said, people are making changes out there. They don't seem to be letting that story of what happened in the past hold them in that. And I need to know how to do that. I don't know well enough how to do that. I got to get out there and learn how it happens. So I showed up here in 1999 and I got into public radio. I worked in public radio in Seattle, but lived here in Tacoma the whole time. And I learned a lot about what it takes to make changes in the community. And a lot of it takes that belief that it's going to happen. And it takes people who say, we're going to help you make that happen. And as a talkative child, I thought I'll just talk my way into everything. And it turns out in radio, people don't necessarily want to hear you talk when you're on the radio. That was one of my first lessons was, yes, Megan, shut up and play the music. And then when I finally got into being a talk show host, the lesson was, ask the question and then listen. So listening is really a power that I understood, but I fully came to appreciate living out here in the Northwest, the importance of listening to people and the power of listening. So I ended up coming to Greater Tacoma Community Foundation in 2017 knowing nearly nothing about philanthropy, but I was brought in through my work in community storytelling, and I know that the stories we tell build our future. And I had that opportunity to start listening to people from across the community. And what I knew, and I knew this anyway, but you really got to see evidence that Everybody sees the injustice and inequity. It's not invisible. No one's missing it. And people who see that injustice, people who've seen that inequity in our community, in our country, in our world, many of them come to us at Greater Tacoma Community Foundation and ask, what can I do? It's not a new question, and I know that GTCF isn't the only organization hearing people say that. But people have been asking that question to GTCF since it was founded in 1981 as a philanthropy dedicated to the people and from the people of Pierce County. I had a hard time with the word philanthropy when I started. I was like, this makes me think of, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Gilligan's Island, but Thurston P. Howell III. So I would always say, we're talking about philanthropy. And it's a hoity-toity word that I've struggled with, but basically, and people are like, philanthropy means giving for the good of others. We all care about that. And for me coming in, I also saw philanthropy as an investment. It's a straight-up investment in the same way you do any other kinds of investment. It's an investment in the people who make positive change happen. Some people do call it their legacy. I'm looking for Kiara, because she was right. She was using that word legacy. I had a great opportunity when I was in public radio to interview the Seattle author and CEO of Jazz Incorporated, Gloria Burgess. If you haven't heard of her work or seen it, Google her. She's got great stuff. But she talks about legacy as the spiritual, ethical, moral, and physical inheritance we leave. Legacy bridges past, present, and future. Legacy is not dependent on clock time. Legacy is planting trees under whose shade you will never sit. And that's why it's so important for us to listen to the ideas and the interests of young leaders. GTCF connects people, knowledge, and funding to build a thriving Pierce County now and also into the future. And because of the role that GTCF plays as a catalyst and funder, we talk with people across communities from all areas of Pierce County. People who have the expertise to guide community change, and people who have the means to invest in community change. So when people come to us and say, what can I do? One thing we tell them is, listen to those with lived experience. In our listening, we've heard from leaders who've been making a difference in the community for years. Leaders like GTCF Fund Advisor Jim Walton. Jim told us that understanding is a critical first step. He told us to be at the core of this new awareness. Ground yourself. Take the time to learn and understand what's going on in your community so you can maximize your resources. We heard from leaders like Dylan Tran. Dylan is now a Community Impact Fellow at GTCF, and he was part of GTCF's Youth Philanthropy Board. And he was also the Senior Director of Education at Peace Community Center. When he was a student at the University of Washington, Seattle, he was an activist, and he learned more about his Southeast Asian heritage in ethnic studies courses. And he began to connect his personal narrative of growing up in Tacoma with making a difference through grassroots organizing. And he told us, once I started to understand my own story, I didn't see it as a sad one anymore. Instead, I learned to draw strength and empowerment from it. Like, we're able to come from this and still make it to the other side, and still push, and still demand a better future. Damn, we're resilient. Dylan said, can I change a system? I already am in my own ways. Little by little, we have to demand change from our leaders. We heard from leaders like Kimberly Keith. She's the executive director of Hilltop Artists, and the necklace that I'm wearing here and the necklace that I'm wearing now are made in the Hilltop Artists studios. Not Hilltop Artists, it's a glass-blowing classes and career development at Hilltop Heritage Middle School. And Kimberly told us that when she went to Hilltop Heritage, when it was called Jason Lee back in the 70s, mixed race with a single mom and free lunch, she said the world was different. Today, the landscape has changed, but there's a lot that stayed the same. She takes being a role model very seriously and says that the support and mentorship she received when she was young prepared her to continue what she calls a virtuous circle through Hilltop Artists, connecting young people from diverse backgrounds to a better future through glass art. And we've heard from leaders like Jonathan Jackson, the executive director of Palmer Scholars. It's an organization that supports Pierce County students of color to overcome financial, cultural, and social barriers in their pursuit of higher education. He pointed to the fact that youth voice is essential for their mission. He said, if you're talking about building an equitable future, but you're not including the future in that conversation, you're not setting the foundation for young people to be successful. Listening is the critical first step. But then, the next step is to take action. To take action, if you can, by investing in that future. GTCF, when we hear people say, what can I do? We recommend making an unrestricted philanthropic investment that gives young leaders the fuel they need to advance their vision. Funders, donors, and other people in the philanthropic sector with a shared commitment to racial equity can support community organizing through an approach we're calling trust-based philanthropy. Trust-based philanthropy is an approach to giving that addresses the inherent power imbalances between funders, nonprofits, and the communities they serve. And on a practical level for donors, trust-based philanthropy means multi-year, unrestricted giving, streamlined applications and reporting, a willingness to back community-defined priorities, and a commitment to building relationships based on transparency, dialogue, and mutual learning. We know that philanthropy can make the most powerful impact when it changes and responds to its community. So back in 1984, soon after GTCF was founded, Cleve Reading was the GTCF Board of Trustees president, and he put forth a core belief for GTCF that we still follow today, that the problems of each generation can be solved better by the best minds of those generations than by the minds of the past. We're going to be hearing from young leaders who have design ideas, who know what needs to happen to make better futures for themselves and their communities. These are some of the best minds of their generation. And we know that by investing in those youth leaders, it's going to be the best way to ensure that those best minds can make the changes for a better future. So if you've heard someone saying, what can I do? If you found yourself saying, what can I do? I'm here to tell you that supporting the ideas you're about to hear about are exactly what you can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that message is so, it's so loud and it comes so clear. I often hear people say, well, I don't want to just give money. It's impersonal, right? I want to give my time. I'm like, this isn't a birthday gift. This isn't like a Christmas gift where, yeah, you want to make sure it's personalized for the individual. No, people, especially young people that want to be leaders in our community, we need the resources to support the time that we can take away from work, right? We need resources to just reserve space to even have these sort of discussions. So definitely, if you want to help out these emerging leaders, please give. Thank you so much, Megan, for saying that. Well, we're about to get right into our main event, which is our designers and this design challenge. I want to actually introduce Dearica Wagner, who was one of the participants in last year's ACES Design Challenge and is a coach in this year's challenge to kind of introduce and open up the floor to our designers. So Dearica, the stage is all yours.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. The IBJ ACES Leadership Development Program is a cohort of aspiring and present activists who serve as co-designers and co-laborers in the IBJ's relentless pursuit of equity and justice for all. Participants in the cohort start their work with the IBJ through the Design Challenge experience. The ACES cohort's primary offering to the community is the annual Human-Centered Design Challenge. This year, 10 young adults accepted the following challenge. How might we update the blueprint for Black excellence that emerged after the 1969 Mother's Day uprising? These brilliant young minds have spent the last 3 weeks planning strategies to update the blueprint for Black excellence. Following today's presentations, the IBJ will take their ideas to the next level, prototype all 3 strategies, and test their recommendations for feasibility and effectiveness. We hope these presentations inspire you or your organization to sponsor and support the IBJ ACES program, and that you will join us in applauding the teams before you this morning. Any good team performs even better with a great coach. I now want to acknowledge the 3 other Design Challenge coaches, Malik Banks, Andre Gimnez, and Keisha Ray Cooper. We were all part of the 2021 ACES Design Challenge, and we're excited to see what this year's team proposes. Before I hand off the mic, off script, I would like to personally thank Carol Mitchell for providing this amazing experience. This is my 2nd year participating in some form, and I just want to say that I believe that the experience is so positive for many reasons. One, I believe and understand personally how it mitigates negative decisions that often flood young Black children's minds in their environments, whether it's through pressure or disadvantages, desperation. And so when you have a positive Black role model in your life, speaking life into you, believing in your ideas, supporting you, giving you resources, giving you tools to navigate this society that is underrepresented of Black and people of color, it really is very, very positive for our mental health, and it's also very positive just in general. So thank you, Carol Mitchell, for all that you do, and thank you for supporting us. Lastly, I would like to say, make a divine statement to everyone, and that is, until the African American people are restored in the lens of justice, until there is equity, we are all cheating ourselves from a divine experience. We are all lacking a cognitive, developmental, personal, emotional, and spiritual development. And so please, please keep that in mind as you consider giving and supporting. Thank you. And now we are acknowledging and bringing up Dr. Carol and Dr. Michael, who are our academic facilitators and guides for this year cohort.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Derica. And it's really great to see all of you here today. I'm really honored to be a part of this absolutely amazing project that Carol Mitchell has launched. And my role is to be an academic facilitator. My daytime job, I am a professor and director of the Master of Public Administration program at the Evergreen State College. And I have to say, working with the teams here has just been a fantastic experience. Mostly because it gives me a chance to do the things I like to do the most, which are to teach and to try to make a difference. And the way Carol Mitchell has structured this and set this design challenge up is a perfect opportunity to do both of those together. When I teach public policy analysis, we talk about design all the time. We talk about policy design and how to make a difference with policy design. And it comes down to 2 main things. You have to know, first of all, what your goal is. You have to be able to define a problem and figure out what it's going to take to solve that problem. And I've loved working with these teams and seeing how they've grasped the nature of the goals in their challenges. They've come up with some really innovative ideas, identified really important problems and ways to address those. The second part of design is actually carrying it out, finding a way to do it. And that's where you get to be really creative. You really get to think about what are some new ways that have not been tried, because these problems have been around for a long time. How are we going to do it, and what are we going to do that's different from what other people have done? And that's the exciting part about working with each of these teams that we're going to hear from today. They've been really engaged with thinking about new and innovative ways of approaching long-standing challenges, and that's exactly what we need from the new generation that's coming up to take a role in policy design and policy leadership. So I've been really thrilled and excited to work with each of you on this project. I'm really anxious to see the final presentations. I didn't get to make it on Wednesday night, even though I wanted to be there, so I haven't gotten to see the presentations yet, so I'm really looking forward to that event today. I also want to introduce here Dr. Carolyn Wise, who from the University of Puget Sound.
Thank you, Michael. It is so great to be here in person. I just got to be a spectator virtually last year. I'm a social psychologist at the University of Puget Sound and part of the leadership team of the Race and Pedagogy Institute. But my role this year in the IBJ was just to get to be a facilitator for one of the Wednesday evenings with the ACEs and their coaches. And I just want to share a few reflections about that amazing experience. And it sort of reflects a lot of the things that were really meaningful yesterday for those who were there. One of the things was that in terms of our task for the night, it was to link the past with the present. And so we reflected on the legacy builders from the 1960s in Tacoma and really asked the question, what is Black leadership and what is inspirational and meaningful to the ACEs and what they have been learning and also in other leaders that they experience now in the community. And I just really appreciated and was inspired by the young people's reflections on learning from the past and seeing themselves as part of that legacy. The other thing I noticed is the really powerful and meaningful role of the coaches. And so I want to do another shout out for the coaches who are here today and who were at that meeting, because what I observed was these are all ACEs from the previous year. And I really observed, the fruits of what it means to kind of embrace and become a leader and practice those skills and be those role models and inspiration for the younger folks. So thank you to the coaches. And I know you're going to get a lot of props from the IBJ and also from your ACEs. That was super meaningful to see and made that successful. And the third thing was just the brilliance and energy of the ACEs. And Carol Mitchell yesterday talked about, that already exists, and the role of the IBJ is to amplify and support. And there's something about a design challenge, which is about bringing, sort of structure and skills that can amplify that brilliance and give people, as Mike was saying, sort of some steps to go through to imagine a problem as big as racism and oppression and violence and criminal, justice and injustice, how to just begin to think in an organized way about making progress in those things. So I too am super excited to see what the ACEs are going to bring to us today. And the one last thing I want to do is acknowledge the community leaders, Carol Mitchell and Wanda Thompson, who are going to evaluate the feasibility, right?
Yes.
And so that is who I'm turning it over to now.
May I have this mic? Okay, thank you. Real quickly, just want to acknowledge that we're not judging, okay? And this is not a competition. What I have with me, I have two people. Wanda's back there in the background also. But I want to introduce Peggy Hurd, who is our social work supervisor for IBJ. Stand up, Peggy, so they can see you. Wave your hand. Peggy Hurd made those beautiful kente-like claws. So if you haven't gotten one yet, we have some extras in the back. Wanda's got those. And also my friend Christy Gledhill-Miller, who is the founder of the Puget Sound South Sound Anti-Racist Project. And so she, myself, and Peggy will be evaluating the proposals with the one question in mind: can we do it? And how do we do it? That's it. Okay? It's all yours, Design Challengers.
I just want to say I appreciate this opportunity, and I rock with my team the heavy way. But what we presented basically, that part. They ain't used to royalty yet, but we gonna get there, But basically, what we presented was just a little something for the young people, because we believe it starts with the young people. No matter what you want to, what type of change you want to bring to the community, you got to start with the young people, because they're the generation up and coming. And it's kind of like killing the plant before you allow it to grow if you don't give the young people an opportunity to do something, be empowered, really gain a financial means to really do something like a source of income and all that. But I ain't going to talk too much because, you know, I'm the coach and I really love what they put together. But yeah, we got Michaela right here. Everybody, we call her Killer K or Killia because she watch anime and she's a dancer. So we got Big B right here. This is our business management. So when we're unorganized and stuff like that, he helps us straighten up. We got RJ Fitness. He's a workout trainer. And then we got Lil Q. Yeah.
Hello, how are you guys? That's good, that's good. Okay, so the first slide is basically introducing the idea of having a field day with just like a little bit of like an educational aspect. You know, like basically when we were doing research, we were thinking, oh, louder? Sorry guys, talk a little soft. When we were doing the research and we were like brainstorming, we were thinking of a lot of ideas. We came up with a lot of things, right? But we were reaching a lot of roadblocks. So when we were thinking of field day because of the youth are the future. So if we start with teaching them about what happened in 1969, then it'll help them later on in life, you know, that kind of thing. So back in 1969 for field day, they was mainly playing baseball because it was like a big sport during that time, but there wasn't really nothing coming of it because black kids probably couldn't even play baseball with people during field day. You know, like they were excluded, they didn't get involved, they didn't really experience what a field day was like, but they experienced what a riot was like, you know, so it was that type of thing. We want to change the aspect of how black kids grow up because if we teach them about the stuff that happened before them, then it helps them in a way because I grew up ignorant. I didn't know a lot about who fought for me, who like paved the way for me, who got me here. Oh, stand up. Okay. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so we decided to take a field day and then add our own twist to it, you know, like teach them about what happened in 1969 because at the same time during kids in 1969, my mom was born in 1969, so I often have to remind myself that 1969 was not that far away. And the fact that Mother's Day riot did happen in 1969 and I didn't know nothing about it is mind-blowing to me, you know? So, next slide.
Okay. Let me stand up. My name is RJ, for y'all who don't know me. I am the fitness trainer, but for what I came up for field day, I wanted to do like a muscle group game for like the kids, you know, to learn about the muscle groups and how it functions and how they work. Also, I was going to do like a push-up contest for the kids, and whoever won, I was going to give them like a gift card. And after that, I was going to do like a beanbag race, you know, for them to have fun and stuff.
RJ Fitness. So I came up with the idea of doing like a Family Feud trivia type thing to learn about Tacoma, IBJ, or other nonprofits here, or that's going to be at the field day, because I think it's important that the kids around or youth around is learning about the different programs around us to, you know, gain success. You know, it's very important that our youth are looking out for other nonprofits and stuff like that, you know, to find a different way or different aspect of life to get through. Also, like a recruitment station or a resource station, having pamphlets, flyers, brochures of nonprofits, programs, stuff around, so kids know about them and reach out.
I came up with basketball math, so like the field day event, they get 19 shots and 16 math problems. One shot is one math problem, and whoever gets up to 16 points go on to the next level in the math problems.
And to add on to that, we'll have other events. This is just what we came up with because we're limited people. So.
And then for me, since like Malik had mentioned before, I am a dancer, so I was thinking of having like a little group of kids and having a dance battle, but with music from like the 1960s, 1970s, the 80s, you know, maybe teaching them like a quick 16 count or 18 count, something of that sort, you know, something just fun but keeps their attention. And I know this all really sounds like very off-putting and you're like, okay, but what does this have to do with like Mother's Day? But the thing is, this is just a broad idea, but there's way more that we came up with it that actually does have something to do with Mother's Day. We could just have the kids come together, sit down, and talk to them, but they're kids, you know, like they're not going to want to just sit here and just listen to us ramble and ramble and ramble. At one point, they're not going to listen to us what we're saying. So if we do stuff that people aren't doing with them, but make it educational and we add an educational factor to it, it makes it more beneficial for everybody in the community as a whole, you know? So outside of the dance battle, we were also going to do an obstacle trivia course, you know, like a question that you heard from maybe like Brandon State, you know, something like that. You know, you get it right, you get to move forward. If you don't, try again, you get another question, you know, something like that. Or a tug of war, whoever wins, they get to go do something else, or they get like a prize, a gift bag or something like that. And that was just how we're going to go about that. But since they are kids, there also is a broad range of kids. So we had to think a little bit more outside of the box, which is where special needs, disabilities come into play. And on behalf of De'Erica, she came up with a couple cool ideas like sensory games, food art, beading, Play-Doh art, like stuff that's able to keep them involved too, but we're still also going to keep them educated because they're the future. They're going, like when we're gone, they're still here. So if they're still here and we're able to educate them but make it memorable for them, because I don't see nobody doing this. Nobody's coming up with like anything like this. I didn't have this as a kid. When I went to field day, I played like 3 games and then that was it. And I went back to learning about subtractions and stuff. That was it. I didn't take nothing from it. But if I can have something memorable, most of my memories was when I was learning something deep about Tacoma, about my history, about what we stand for as people, as a community, you know? It's stuff like that. So if we can bring it to them like that, that's what we're trying to do, you know? Because I didn't learn a lot. But come with field day, there also is a couple barriers because not everybody's in the same situation. So we did make a list of barriers that could come up if we were to actually do this for IBJ.
Oh, next slide. Yeah. So some barriers we came up with: traveling problems. You know, some youth may not have the access to bus or Orca cards or cars or stuff like that. So we'll be looking into resources. Okay, I got you. All right. Resources to get our youth to the event. Also, Killa went over this, games for special needs and disabilities. Legal approval, that's very important. Schedule approval, you know, a timeline when everything's going down, this and that. Parent approval and footage permission, that's also important. Some parents don't like their kids to be photographed and all that, so we got to get approval for that. And the haters, no one likes haters. Hey, it's good vibes only over here, so if you're on that type of time, that's not me.
Yeah, we got the next slide. All right, the solutions to the barriers. We came up with Enterprise has nonprofits discount vendors. Oh, my bad. We are going to have a section for every child to feel comfortable, meaning like they're not going to feel out of place. They're going to feel like they're welcome. You know, feel like they're at home with their people. Parks permissions for field day. Basically, we're going to give you like a ticket so you can have permission to park so you won't get a fee. Got to have parking availability because without that you won't have nowhere to park. permission slips for the parents to say if they are okay with video footage of their kids. Basically, we don't want no illegal activities, and we don't want to get fined and arrested for video taping people without permission. Yeah. I kind of like this, though. I kind of like this.
All right, and then this is our closing. Okay. So Field Day helps teach the history of the Mother Day's event from the 1960s and gives them relationships and resources to continue change making that was in the heart and minds of the original legacy builders. The average goal for kids that we want to show up is around 25 because it's kind of just unrealistic to make a large number because not everybody's always going to be able to come. But if we are able to at least make it to 25 kids, then those 25 kids can go tell maybe like another 25 kids, or they can go tell their friends and their families, and then next time we have it, we have a way bigger turnout. It's that way. If we keep getting the word out, it keeps making it beneficial for everybody in everyone around us, and that includes future council members, future mayors, future presidents, future teachers, anybody. We don't know what these kids are going to do, but they're capable of anything as long as we give them the knowledge and room and comfortability to do so. So while we do that, the ages we were mainly thinking were 6th to 12th grade, but if kids younger want to come, we ain't gonna say no. Everyone's welcome. We ain't gonna say no, even if they 2. I have a 2-year-old, so we can find a game. We can make a way for it. We can make a way. So then, as we do want this to be like a 2-day event, because if you can't make it the first day, ta-da, we have a second day. So, it's able to make it, because the first day we may have the 25 kids, but then like the second day we may have 50 kids, or we may have 30 kids, or we may have 35, 40, whatever the number may be. We're just here to do what we're put on this earth to do, So we do want at least 25 kids max. Expectations ain't that high because, we reasonable. And we do actually think this has the potential to not just be a 2-day event and then we just walk away from the kids. We kind of think it could be like an annual thing and then eventually maybe turn into like a monthly youth program. That way, because once those kids start to build that relationship and they realize, oh, okay, they're not here to just give me an event and then I never see him again. No, they're actually here to be here for me as a young Black African American little boy or a little girl or anybody, really. It doesn't even matter about the race. It's about everybody. The more hands, the merrier. The more bodies, the more we're welcoming, honestly. We want everybody to feel like no one's excluded. There we go. Sorry. But, yeah. So that's basically how we want to do. We want to make them, not only are we trying to change the dynamic of what Field Day is or what it was in the past, but we're also trying to change the meaning of what it means to be a village. Because when I grew up, yeah, I was poor, but I had a village. The village helped my mom raise me. So we need to change the definition of a village. And if we can start with the kids, instead of trying to start with someone who's maybe already stuck in their ways, we can start with someone who's young. We can start building that in their mind, okay, we are a community. This is what's wrong with the community. And I have people sitting here trying to think of a fun way to keep me involved in what's going on around me. Because growing up, I didn't know a lot of stuff was happening, So, yeah.
I just want to add on to that. Me personally, this is off topic though, but me personally growing up though, I grew up on Hilltop, right there on 21st and MLK. I actually was living in Parkland, but I moved here in 2nd grade, but I was born in Georgia. And my mom, she had to get herself together, so I had to go live with my auntie that was in Fort Lewis. I was on base. I was a military kid. But fast forward, but anyways, on Hilltop, I witnessed a lot of, gang violence. Me personally, my sister, she was dating a dude that was gangbanging, so me, I was seeing that every day. I was coming in my mom's house, running in, stealing, you know what I'm saying? I didn't like that, but I knew it was wrong, and I knew that I had to stay away from that. And seeing a lot of people dying too, I witnessed people murdered. I seen dead bodies on Hilltop. Little kid, 2nd grade, going to McCarver Elementary. Brandon, met him in 6th grade. Malik too. We all grew up on the hill, you know, so it was just like kind of crazy seeing that. And I used to go to the People Center, Malcolm X Center, but I don't know why I always felt like something was resonating inside me when I was going there. You know, I was there every day, and people were like, hey, I see you, man, keep doing your thing, you hooping, keep going, just stay at it. And then just going there, it just felt like home, you know, at the People Center, Malcolm X Center. And I didn't know that it was called the Malcolm X Center, you know, and I watched a lot of biographies and audiobooks about Malcolm X and Nat Turner and Fred Hampton and all of them, bro, and it was just beautiful to hear about that and know about Muhammad Ali. Like, man, I used to watch him when I was a kid about boxing, you know, things like, you know, that's real, you feel me? So it's just cool. And hearing about that, like, yeah, I got a lot of things I want to do for, you know, for y'all. And it is time because it's now, you feel me? And change is now. Like, we got to change everything, literally. So that's all I wanted to say.
Hey. Oh.
Okay, I think it's our turn over here at the Q&A table. Christy Gledhill, South Sound Anti-Racist Project, has the first question.
Thank you. Thank you all. That was such an imaginative, hopeful idea, and I loved the way that you talked about it in the first part. Michaela, I'm not sure what to call you. Okay. I loved in the beginning you were talking about how this would be different, like just imagining the contrast between a field day back in the 60s. 69, I was 1 year old. But a field day back in the 60s compared to the imaginative idea that you have for today. And I saw the things that you said in that last slide about how you would measure success, and numbers are important. I mean, it's good to have a bunch of people there. And I also wonder what you would say to how will you know that you're successful based on what the kids or the parents will say when they're done? Like, what do you want to hear? What do you imagine hearing out of somebody's mouth when you say, what did you get out of that? Like, how do you feel about that now? What did you learn? Like, what are the things that I like doing that with any event I do, kind of trying to imagine what success feels like to the people who are there, no matter how many.
Okay, I'm gonna stand. So, what I would imagine what the success would be like is what the kids' faces look like while we're doing it and what they're learning, because that's everything to me. I've worked with kids, like I said, I have a 2-year-old, so their expressions, if they come back, that's even better. But to see them have fun in that moment and to take something from it, even if I don't know if they do, but the fact that they still came, they had fun, they were comfortable, and I still gave them something to walk away with, even if they don't want to, that's enough for me.
I want to add on to that. Oh, damn, man.
Okay.
Damn.
My question is pretty basic. My thing is, you guys could pull this off. You could really do it, because I've seen you could do this, really. My question, real simple, what kind of budget are you looking at to make this work for you? Are you going to go out? Are you going to solicit volunteers? Are you going to go out and ask people to make donation? How are you going to get the money to do it? And what type of space are you looking to do this for that 2-day event? And your whole marketing strategy, because really, you only got a minute. Yeah, money. That's a big thing. Where you gonna get it from?
Okay, so pretty much what I'm thinking, we haven't really thought this over yet, just a little bit, but definitely fundraising is one thing that we'll look into, reaching out to different nonprofits, seeing if they would like to donate, support us.
One of the solutions we had written down, because I looked into it, when we were talking about barriers, I was looking into everything. I was looking into the travel fees, what that may be. And then if we did possibly have food, what that budget could be. And honestly, the vendors here's the thing. Okay, so with Enterprise, you can still have a vendor, but the price varies. So it depends on how much the vendor's willing to pay in order for me to actually have an exact balance on what the van's going to cost. But I am more than willing, if I have to, I will come out of pocket to pay to make sure kids can come to this field day if it was to happen, because that's how passionate I am about this field day. And if I have to pay for 2 vans, I will pay for 2 vans. And if I have to pay for 3, I will pay for 3. Even if they're 16-seater, 18-seater, a 12-seater, a 5-seater, we gonna get a van and we gonna make sure these kids get there. You know?
Okay, so we're going to have to close, but this is a beautiful presentation. Thank you, Group 1. We got to move on to Group 2.
We want more.
Okay, make sure you leave that tablecloth looking as beautiful as it was when you left. Yes, thank you, Malik. It's all the way out by the stairs. All right, Group 2, you're on. And we are running a little bit behind, so let's try to stay real close to the time limits, okay?
I'm Keisha Ray. I know you guys heard from me yesterday, so I won't be too long, but I was the coach for group number 2, and what we decided to do was how can we empower to break negative mindsets for the demographic of 18 to 35-year-olds so that we can have more leaders in power like myself, like Andre. So we wanted to bring in that historical aspect of Pierce County, learning about people like Senator Franklin and the Lyles of the world, and how we can empower the generations to come. So we have Monique, Jaquez, and Ryan, and I will let them take it away.
Well, I would like to introduce myself. I am Jaquez, and these are my lovely teammates, Monique and Ryan. This year's ACES Design Challenge is centered around this question: how might we update the blueprint for Black excellence that emerged after the May 11th, 1969 Mother's Day uprising in Tacoma? And we decided to reconstruct that a little bit and ask, how might we update the blueprint for Black excellence that began in 1969 to further empower 18 to 35-year-olds to break negative mindsets? And the reason why we chose 18 to 35-year-olds is because I feel like that's a wide range, and that's kind of like where all the new parents are. And those 18 to 35-year-olds technically are the ones who are teaching the youth now. So that is why we chose that wide range. Our idea is that we want to implement an educational course on historic events that have happened in Pierce County for 18 to 35-year-olds. And this would include intergenerational conversation, history exhibits, and education on parenting.
Some of the barriers that we would see to our idea is we would need a consistent learning space. We would also need contact and connection to leaders. We would also need help with event planning. And also, we would need to combat the effects of disenfranchisement caused by what I would call economic violence, which has kind of erased the density of black culture. And then we would also need to combat the effects of civic disengagement, which exists inside of the Black community. Our action steps, we would have to focus on our primary actors, which are individuals who are 18 to 35 years old. We would need the help of the IBJ team, and also access and help from the legacy builders. The resources, again, would be legacy builders, mentors who are currently in the community and active. We would need partnership organizations, and then we would also need access to funding. Our main goal is going to be to try to have more Black leaders in power and to increase positive interactions amongst members of the Black community.
So some possible solutions to the barriers: the consistent learning space. We could start out via Zoom or the Colored Women's Club or an engaging history or historic building. Something that came up in our group that we talked about just on the side was also something like an app, like an interactive app, such as the way Pokemon Go went, if you guys know what that is. And then the connection. We know that IBJ and the IBJ team has a lot of connection to legacy builders, as well as the UW History Department and the Tacoma Historical Society. For some coordinators, IBJ could hire or find a volunteer. I would even volunteer myself to assist in that position as I've been interning with IBJ. Project planning via consortium of leaders and youth, class discussions and/or service learning projects, and giving incentive for people to show up. We know that with the 18 to 35-year-old demographic, there's a lot of children involved, so we would allow children to show up and engage in this so that childcare isn't a worry, and provide refreshments. The metrics that we will use to define a meaningful impact will be more Black leaders in position, increased civic engagement by residents of Pierce County, number of individuals and families positively served by the program, increased rates of Black occupancy in Pierce County, and a positive Black representation in the community. And then basically for our closing, we're finding that the 18 to 35-year-old demographic doesn't know about the history in the communities that they live in. They see problems but no solutions to these problems. Educating them on historical events will help problem-solving skills or help with problem-solving skills and break negative mindsets. We can help them to understand that their voice and efforts are good enough, needed, and appreciated. This will aid in a new generation of what we like to call legacy builders so we can continue to update the blueprint for Black excellence.
Okay, so a historical exhibit. Can we go back to that slide where you laid out your ideas there? One more? Two more, I guess. Oh, next one. That's it. Okay, so intergenerational conversation, history exhibits, and education on parenting. Can you say just a little bit more about what education on parenting might look like?
So the parenting education, I think for communities, it is imperative that the youth come up with a feeling of an appreciation of self. And I think that's something that has been an issue inside of the Black community. So I think it's important to have parents who have successfully managed the demands on them to help new parents understand what it's going to be like to interact with a child at different ages. I think that through this, what we'll have is we'll essentially have the community, like Group 1 was talking about, that helps to bring up children so that they can then be effective leaders themselves.
Hi, thank you for this really great idea. It's huge. There's a lot in there. You have a lot of aspects that I think are really important: the conversation, the history, and the education parts of it. And I'm thinking about the things that you said about partners and mentors and the legacy people. Like, you have a lot of partners there, and you're going to need them, right? Because and luckily you're in a town in Tacoma where that kind of collaboration happens. Like, people, you can get that kind of energy in this town. I'm wondering, partly because I come from a marketing background, what have you had a conversation about how you're going to get the word out about this? How are you going to generate enough interest to have some of the experts on history or some of the conversation that you were talking about? How will you draw them in and inspire them with this great idea that you have? That will be a part of your work too.
So I was thinking that, like, I'm a part with IBJ. We're all working together. She works with that age demographic. So we were, in my head, I was hoping that we would reach out to everyone that we're already working with that's within that age demographic and have us kind of be the goat in this one. We would test it out on us and then see how it goes from there. And then with that, we're already at that age. So we can be recruiting our other friends and family and whoever we work with at that time for the 18 to 35-year-olds. And then with the legacy builders, I would encourage, hopefully, that all of our elders, or what you guys call seasoned people, are helping us kind of bring in those mentors, since we don't have that connection.
Yes, real quick. Okay, because your scope is really big. So if you had to narrow it down to two projects within this statement, which two would you focus on?
I personally would focus on the intergenerational conversation and possibly the education on parenting, because like Ryan stated, you need to be, like, as a parent, you have to kind of gauge within those children, and then also being able to process that workload as a parent and work with your children.
Okay, got it.
Thank you, team. Leave that table the way you found it. Okay, final presentation. And lunch is coming at 12:15, so we should be right where we need to be. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, I'll be brief since I know we're the only thing standing between you guys and lunch. So, awesome. Well, I'm Andre Jimenez. I was part of the 2021 Design Challenge team, and I'm so honored to be invited back to be a coach. It's been really interesting being on this side of the table this time and guiding these Design Challenge members through this process. I really take my hat off to IBJ. I'm a student leader at UWT, and oftentimes we get asked for youth engagement, and oftentimes that means fill out a survey, come to this event and tell us, and then we never hear from them again. And so it's really awesome that we're treated as consultants, that we're subject matter experts on what youth need today. And so really excited to pass this off to my team and allow them to show you what they've been working on the last 3 weeks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Sorry. Thank you, Carol, and the IBJ team for having us here and for giving us this opportunity to present something amazing. My name is Leticia, and this is our team, Jay Sean, Jasmine, and Halana, and of course our coach, Andre. There you go. Okay, so the theme for this year's challenge is how might we update the blueprint for Black excellence that emerged after the May 11th, 1969 Mother's Day uprising in Tacoma. And it began with police interaction that led to massive social change here in Tacoma. Those engaged in the uprising took one of two paths. Some went into government, working within the system, while others began working outside of the system. Today, 53 years later, people are still struggling with the same issues that ignited on the Mother's Day uprising, such as economic exclusion, lack of living wage jobs, and police brutality. Today, we're going to present a work that seeks to expand this blueprint and make it relevant for the youth today.
I'm not going to pretend like I'm not nervous, so please bear with me. But over here you have our, I don't know how to talk in this thing, but over here we have our updated How Might We statement, and I'm just going to read it off for you. So it says, how might we update the blueprint for Black excellence that began in 1969 for young people of color who are not socially active, to make the safety net big enough for everyone by implementing smaller action plans for younger people to execute and contribute to the causes that matter to them. So as you can see, we chose to focus on younger generations, such as everyone else, as well as trying to make social activism seem less intimidating by breaking up into smaller pieces and educating them sooner rather than later. And this also connects to the Mother's Day uprising, because a lot of us are either from Washington or have lived here for a very good portion of our lives, and we still didn't even know about the Mother's Day uprising until we happened across this amazing opportunity. So I think that in some ways we still have like an educational gap, especially when it comes to educating Black students about their Black history in school, because as you guys know, if you've experienced it, we all learn about the same two topics from like 4th grade to high school. And so we kind of feel that our project is hoping to seek a solution to build a bridge between that. So right here you can see this is our prototype, and it's a visual depiction of our concept that we were just talking about. And here in the center we have, this is like a group of people within the community. And in the center we have this really cute little halo that Leticia made, good job. I can't laugh at this thing. But anyways, and basically it's meant to show that within the community there are some people who are covered by the safety net, which is a halo. And there's some people outside of it who are clearly more in the minoritized representation. And basically, we hope to basically increase this circle to provide an increase in accessibility for our community members within the system. Yeah, cool. Okay, so now that we've hyped this up, this is our project idea that we'll be focusing on. So as you can see, basically our goal is to create is to create an online learning content to train the next generation of social activists. So the way we decided to do this was, if you guys don't know about Masterclass, this is going to sound like an ad, but I'm just trying to provide some context. So it's a one-year subscription to a video sharing platform that has professionals in various fields, from cooking to fashion design, interior designing, history topics, and all things of that nature. And they educate whoever pays to watch the videos, take notes, and learn about whatever they'd like in social, and certain hobbies and things of that nature. So we took that idea and expanded it, that we would hope to create videos online that would educate younger generations on how to be social activists today using their own mediums and passions and things of that nature. A lot of us know about protesting as a main way to be social activists, but sometimes a lot of people find that to be very intimidating and also dangerous, which is harder to do, especially when you're younger, especially if your parents don't really promote going out there and doing that because they just want to protect you and keep you safe. So, some of our classes would be, for instance, protester rights, knowing about your First Amendment, and also knowing about your freedom of speech, the limitations of it, and what it truly means, as well as how to protest safely. There would also be videos that go over using your passions, mediums, and hobbies, such as if you're into creative writing and the arts of painting and mural and visualization, and being able to write poetry for social change, or creating murals that would be hopefully in your communities one day, or art pieces that are your expression of what you think about social actions, as well as your way to contribute in the fight without having to be in the traditional sense of protesting on the streets. As well as hopefully there will be classes about leadership skills and learning how you can kind of take control even at younger ages to create groups of people who are interested in fighting the same social change as you are, because we all know that there is strength in numbers, but we also know that usually sometimes we have neighbors who aren't fighting the same fight as we are, and so that would also go along with how to organize politically, even with people who you may not know, but in a safe manner that's also effective. And last but not least, something that I think is super important is discovering your why. And as many of you who were here yesterday have heard, that a lot of our speakers were saying the same things about how, I'm super nervous, I'm sorry, but they were all saying a lot of the same things about how this shouldn't be something that drains you or empties you or, beats you down, but it should be something that fills you up and that you're motivated by it because you're passionate. And I think part of the problem is that a lot of younger generations know about the things that are going on in the world, or they don't. And they also know that they feel this obligation to be fighting, especially if it's for yourself and minority groups you represent, or allyship to the people you love and care about. But sometimes fighting for other people isn't enough, or you don't fully understand what that means, and the purpose cannot fill you up without you understanding why you really do this in the first place. And so hopefully we can have speakers who help younger students discover their why and understand why you're doing this, so when they feel defeated and beat up, because we all know that we can't make magic happen overnight, they still have something that helps them keep on going. And we also have the YouTube symbol out there, just because we want to make these videos very accessible and across the board for anyone to be able to watch them and consume the content and understand them. And so we would hope that they could be uploaded on YouTube as well as the IBJ free of charge for people to understand and be able to do this themselves. And one thing I forgot to note about Masterclass that we would also be implementing in the video project, if this were to come to fruition, is that because they're educational, they're about 15-30 minutes long, which is some people's attention span. And also they provide prompts and basically examples of how students can later take the information they're learning in the classes and go on to recreate them themselves, so they can start creating social change in their own ways. And now I'm going to pass this to Jasmine to talk about solutions. Actually, sorry, barriers.
Okay, some barriers. So, as we were developing our prototype, we were mindful of the barriers participants would face. Some of those are: people are desensitized, timing issues, work, school, kids, fear of engaging with other participants, intimidation of activism, not enough encouragement from peers, transportation issues, Wi-Fi, computer access, and accessibility concerns. And I'll let Jay Sean expound more on the barriers.
Good morning, everyone. So in looking at these barriers, we looked at the biggest barriers that we anticipated on coming upon, and also came up with a few solutions for these barriers. So in terms of time management or timing issues, we understand that not everyone's going to have the same exact schedule. Some people have different issues. People have school, work, kids, other obligations that they have to fulfill. And so we want to make this program completely asynchronous. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I'm going to slow down in speaking a bit too fast. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically completely online, so you can take things at your own pace. So for videos, you can pause, play, rewind, fast forward as needed. So if you need to go back and take notes, or if you heard something that you thought was really profound and you just want to hear it again, go ahead and do that. Also, for intimidation of activism, we want to bring in relevant and relatable speakers to drive home that idea that activism or social activism isn't just running for office. Like was mentioned earlier today, you can sing, you can do art, you can do poetry, whatever your passion is, you can include social activism in that. We want to educate our youth about that as well. We also want to make activism attainable. And by that we mean starting off with smaller goals as opposed to the bigger issues to make it seem more doable. In terms of accessibility issues, we want to work with disability experts and advocates in order to ensure that we are being as accessible as possible. We also want to ensure that we are providing audio, captioning, and transcripts of all of our courses, I'm going to say. Next slide. Oh, do I? Okay, there we go. All right, sorry about that. All right, so here are a few action steps that we came up with. The primary actors in this will be UW-T, PLU, and Evergreen, UW-T, PLU, UPS, sorry, and Evergreen instructors, professors of color, activists to include that diversity of perspective, elected officials, black entrepreneurs, and other successful black representatives, nonprofit leaders, IBJ Media Team, Disability Rights of Washington, and NAMI, which is the National Advocates for Mental Illnesses, and then resources that we anticipate on needing, camera equipment, microphones, editing software, computers, a physical space to record these courses, the IBJ website and YouTube information, and we want to emphasize an outreach plan. We want to emphasize that because we understand that an effective outreach plan is needed to reach underrepresented youth. And for success, what success looks like for us, we want to use the metrics of the website traffic as well as watch time, as well as creating content based on interests from the community. And we also want to look at participants and make sure that, or ensure that they are coming back as instructors in the future. And then we're going to go ahead and watch this short video on our final recommendation to IBJ. It's a trailer.
Oh, wow.
We got you.
An Andre Jimenez film. That's amazing. Just a couple questions. Christy, you got a final question?
Well, I did, but you answered it with that video. I was going to ask about how you're going to get people to care about this. And I mean, show them that video, for one thing, to get them fired up. The other question I had was kind of something that I asked the other, one of the other teams too, and it had to do with resources. I mean, I think there was the middle column about all the things that you will need, the camera and the room and the recording equipment. How will you, did you have, I guess, how am I going to ask this question? Do you feel like you need to acquire those things, or will you try to make partnerships in the community? I'm kind of leading you with this question, but how do you plan to reach out and make this doable so that you don't have to have the big fat budget that you would need to acquire all those things?
All right. So we definitely want to look into partnerships. That is a great way of getting our names out there, especially the name of this project that we're working on, and it can help us to ensure that this will be a long-running project, as opposed to just like running for a year and then our budget runs out and then we're done. And although it would be nice for us to, do everything on our own, I feel like that would also be very stressful. And so we do want to bring in community partners.
Okay, just want to ask a real quick question. Have you thought about continuing education learning, especially within the community college and some of the more four-year university, and making that, providing credits towards people's really career goals? Are you on? That would really be great, because I know some organizations that could really use what you're doing. So trying to get out there. So have you thought about that? All right.
So we have not thought about that, but hearing it now, it definitely does sound like an amazing idea. And like collaborating with universities for credit-based learning would definitely be beneficial, not only to students, but also to the universities as well.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you, Group 3. We appreciate it. You're off the hook. We want to just turn it over to Dr. Craw and Dr. Wise for final comments, and then the microphone will go back to Anjanae. And I think we have a special musical presentation that will play you into lunch and through lunch, which is coming at about 12:15. I'll give this microphone to you, Dr. Craw.
Does this one work? Okay, I can hear. I just want to say I'm inspired. I think this is feasible. I can imagine lots of feasibilities, but obviously there's lots of ways to get from here to there. And I don't have a whole lot else to say other than thank you so much for your great ideas and inspiration.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was really excited to see the final product too. I saw the first stages of it a couple weeks ago, and you all put an amazing amount of work into all these projects. What I love about the field day idea is the thoughtfulness that went to inclusion. Like, you weren't just thinking about everybody. You weren't just thinking about certain segments. You were thinking about how do we integrate people who face disabilities? How do we make this a truly open event, an inclusive event for everybody? And how do we make sure that they get served in good ways? How do we connect them to help make their lives better? And I love that about that idea, and I think it's something that often doesn't get thought about. And then with Group 2, I love the idea. I was sort of thinking, trying to brainstorm names for your ideas, like, something that plays off of legacy builders, because you're talking about the next generation learning from the generation before. And that doesn't happen often enough. There are all kinds of lessons you can learn from previous generations. I love the thoughtfulness of recognizing that important resource that often is overlooked in the community, and ways we can capitalize on it in order to move forward. And then Group 3, I mean, of course, the amazing video, but also the thoughtfulness that goes into how do you provide the resources to sustain movements over time, which is really one of the enduring questions in political science. And no one has come up with a good answer to it, so hats off to you if what you come up with is going to work. But just really love seeing some fresh ideas around that because it's such an important challenge.
I'm going to add one more thing. There's a concept the Race and Pedagogy Institute thinks about, which is public education, what it means to be a learner and a teacher in non-traditional spaces, in public spaces. That's kind of what we're all doing today, but I also loved how all three programs were really non-traditional and very public in the way education is created and made accessible to so many people. And the power, especially in the Black community, of people saying, you know, I didn't learn a lot growing up. I didn't feel that sense of my own history or connection or even community. And so I just love how all of these projects are really powerful from an educational perspective. And I agree that institutions of higher ed and K-12 have a lot to benefit from this kind of educational approach.
I did not mean to cut you off there. I'm so sorry, Dr. Cohen, Dr. Weiss, but thank you guys so much for being our ACES guide through this whole design experience. I, too, just want to echo what you guys were saying about how inspired I am from the ideas that came out of these groups and the variety of ideas. You know, we have the interactive, we have those that are geared towards parents, and then those that are, you know, very technological, right? And they very accessible. That's one thing I think that we all seen in the last 2 years with just the pandemic and, you know, transitioning to virtual spaces, that we can accomplish a lot with technology. And that's part of, you know, the update, right? They didn't have that back in 1969, so this is literally us updating the blueprint. I also know that, you know, when the question came out about budget, you know, it's always like something that nobody wants to just give a number for, but I want to encourage you guys to go high, shoot for the moon, and you'll land on the stars. Like, put a big number out there, because you don't know what, you know, we don't know what's in people's pockets, nor do we know what's in these organizations' budgets and what they're willing to do to support and to back these ideas. So be bold and be strong. You know, we're going to need a budget for that field day, and I think Tacoma needs to see this field day come together. What do you guys think, right? Yeah, absolutely. And Killer, you ain't going to come out of pocket for it either, because you got to make sure that 2-year-old at home has food. Oh, exactly. We got to make sure she's good. So I'm saying, like, this is where the village comes together, our communities come together, so we can make sure we have the transportation, the food, and so that the people that are organizing these programs also have the resources in order to do that work. I love the technology because we all have cell phones. You know, most of us, probably 99% of us have cell phones, smartphones. It's a way that we can come together not only here in Washington State, but across states, right? Across countries. I mean, everybody can access the internet, and people need to know that information. They need to know their rights. They need to know how to organize, right? They need to be inspired, and when they see it coming from people that are young, that look like them, and that are energized about them, I mean, there's a lot of power that comes with that, you know, so I love this idea. And of course, the second group, you guys were like a merge of, you know, the technological, right? Having the Zoom platforms, making it accessible, but still educating. And you know, that's one thing I think yesterday we didn't really hear. Back in 1969, we heard Amir and Lyle. I mean, they were the disruptors. They were the ones that were, I mean, they were furious for good reason. And we, as millennials, have good reason to be furious with the system, too. You know, we're not far removed from 1969 or even 2019 with Manny Ellis, you know. So we have good reason to be upset, but I love to hear that you guys are more leaning towards the sides of education, of peace, of solidarity, of unity, and, you know, again, this is just how we're updating it. So please, you guys, help me give these guys a round of applause, another round of applause. Great ideas. I can't wait to see them come to life. It is our lunchtime now, so I want to just welcome you guys to stretch your legs. I believe there's going to be food in the hallway area, so at 12:15, so you have about 10 minutes before that food will be out there, but oh, perfect, so no wait time at all. We'll see you guys back at 12:40. Yeah, and there'll be some music to play during. music? No. It should be in my Blackbird podcast music.
Okay, I'm gonna go yell into the dirt.
Can you pull this out?
No. That's the remote for the clicker.
Do we have another USB port we can use? Or?
No.
Oh wait, there's.
On the PC.
Yeah.
So what are you? What are we pulling?
Oh, I'm just I am.
Okay. You want to just start on the desktop?
She wasn't happy with the
I told you it was gross, man. Like it was.
She's like, thanks for coming away.
They tried to double bucket. So they're not going for the hero this time.
What's that?
Not going for the hero this time. I'm going to go for the turkey. You know something I thought about too, though, afterwards? What if you could just roll up the inside? Just take it off the bread and make a lettuce wrap out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I bought a salad too.
I was just thinking.
It's got cabbage in it, so
Nice. Not a lettuce fan?
I can't really. No, I like lettuce.
It just hits you in the button. Yeah, no, I know exactly how about that. Okay.
Which one? Oh, there you go. That's the sesame music.
There's the orange folder right there.
I'm going to just drag that over here.
I'd hike it to the top. I'd hike it just right to the desktop. It'll go way faster. So you can't really start on the desktop. Lucky fluff. Potato. I'm using alternate words. I've been trying to practice that. No, it's auto online, so just double click it. Like I would want like a monitor so I could actually hear what the sounds like. You know what I mean? Because like I need to hear what her volume is because I don't know what the set of
I
volume
can
is.
hear her volume on my
I can't hear.
You want to use them?
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, they're still plugged in.
Because all we gotta do is set this level right here to be where we need it.
Shoot.
Lose your headphones? They're probably in the back.
Okay, I need to. I'm a person. I gotta go back and look.
Testing. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, so how many of you are enjoying the music that you're listening to? Round of applause. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to introduce the person who single-handedly wrote and produced this music that you're now listening to. He's a young person, Mr. Drew Watts. He's going to tell you a little bit about his creative process. This is part of how we amplify the work of young adults. So this is another way that we do it. Drew, 5 minutes.
Hello, nice to see you all today. I am Carol's grandson's best friend. We've been making music for like years and years. She's been watching our whole creative journey for like a while now. So late last year, she very nicely asked me to make the song for her events, and I was blown away. I thought that meant a lot, and I was very excited. She told me she wanted a 10-minute song, and I said, I'll give you a 10-minute song. You're going to get a 10-minute song. Yeah, so I spent 3 or 4 months making the best thing that I could that made people feel good, that you could groove to and wouldn't get old, listen to it for that long. So what you're hearing, and you've probably already heard maybe a couple of loops since I started playing, is what I came up with. And I'm very proud of it. I like that she likes it and everybody else enjoys it. It was so much fun to make. It was a lot of work, but I'm proud of the result, and I'm glad that you guys can hear it today. This is the first time I've heard it on good speakers, So yeah, I felt good about that. Yeah, so thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and put this down.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh man, see, this is what I'm talking about. IBJ, we put our support where our mouth is. Like, we actually do love, and Carol mainly, she has a true heart for giving back, giving to the next generation, supporting, our already strong passions. So I hope that just this today is a reflection of where our heart is in this work. Before we transition into our keynote speaker today, which is a treat, and I am really excited to hear all of his words, we have another musical performance. So you guys can continue eating. I'm going to invite the lovely Tiori up here. Yes.
I knows this soon. Okay. So let me just go over my first song. Let me just go over who I am. My name's Tori Watson. I'm a 25-year-old artist, all-around musician. I like to work on instruments as well. I rap as well. And my family, we're the Watsons. We're pretty big in the city of Tacoma. Give me a second. Let me breathe. Okay. So yeah, we're pretty big in the city of Tacoma. We all do music. A lot of them are based in churches, Kojic churches in the Tacoma, Washington area. So the first song I'm going to be singing is pretty home to me. It hits home. It's about my life growing up in Tacoma as a adolescent. I was pretty bad. There was this, I was pretty bad. I was a rebel child. I liked to do things that were kind of against the grain. I would go out late at night, hang out with friends. There used to be this event, I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. It was called 7 to 7 or Wheels, or y'all ever heard of that? Maybe y'all's kids went, y'all didn't know. But the point is, it was pretty much at the skating rink. It would be all night. I would do things like that. You would dance. There was no skates, okay? You're just dancing on the floor, okay? And it was a pretty, it wasn't for kids. I'm going to say that. It shouldn't have been going down like that. But that was an experience of mine. I used to steal a lot. I'm going to tell y'all, because I grew out of all this, so I need to tell about my bad experiences. I used to be a little thief, stealing from the stores to get a little outfit for the 7 to 7s, and this is telling my experience. I've been to jail in 6th grade because I stole my brother's weed, okay? Try to sell it at school, okay? Don't judge me. I'm not the same. I'm just saying there's a lot of kids that are like this, right? And we have to think about what are the reasons why children make these decisions. Why do children do the things that they do at a young age? And a lot of it had to do with my community around me. Okay, I was exposed to a lot of things, and so I always knew I wanted to be an artist. I've always knew this was something I wanted to do, but I had a lot of things pushing me back, and this is a little bit about it. So here we go. Other one. I'm sorry, Mama. Other one. Gratitude. Oh, other one, sir. Sorry. Sorry, friend. Sorry. Simple? Yes. So this song is called The Simple Things. I had to realize the simple things was all that really mattered. Happiness, joy, peace, love. You turn it up for me? Gratitude. Turn it up. Turn it up more. Turn me up, turn me up. As far as, why don't sound like the song?
What's that?
Go back, that don't sound like the song. Hold up. Sorry, y'all, hold up. That don't sound like the song for last
So I
time.
got your presence is
Yeah.
simple things. And then this one.
Do me a favor, this is our internet?
What's that?
Internet. This ain't the song. I mean, it's a song, but it's not the song. You know what I mean? Yeah, gratitude. That wasn't the song. Sorry, you guys. It's a song, but it's not the song. Does that make sense? It's the beat, though, I think. So I'm trying to figure out, where's the song? Okay. All right, let's play it off here. That's okay. We do it like that. Cool. Gratitude. I'm ready. Hey, gratitude. The simple things, that's all I need. My family that cares for me. Your baby girl, I like your word. The simple
Yo, I be popping. Non-stop, they be talking, walkie-talkie. Diamonds on my wrist look like frosting. I'm headed to New York, Mr. Boston. And yeah, I got a show and it's costing. I'm thinking God could have been in the coffin. Used to lose my mind till I left it where I lost it. Gotta stay alive, got a baby, needing profit. I can't sacrifice cause my life ain't an option. Utilize my pain as the reason why I'm cautious. Life is just a game till it's over like Sonic. I'm sleeping in the rain, can't worry about falling. Staying out the way like a restraining order's on me. I can't catch a case cause I hate being lonely. Everything I've been through brought me right to where I'm going. I'm killing the race, ain't no time to stop slowing. Nah, ayy, those simple things, that's all I need. My family, that cares for me. Your baby girl, I like your work. Turn me up, let's go. All I need, yeah. Look, I was born in the struggle, had to fight. Man, I always been hungry, appetite. I made some mistakes, I went to jail before my period came. Only 11 with some drugs in my name. All my homies was lit, y'all at the playgrounds. We hitting licks, 7 to 7. Yeah, I knew I knew fit. I used to get beat, not coming home, rather stay in the streets. Seemed like the only place that understood me. I was running like Forrest, smoking on Forrest. When life got hard, I had to ignore it. I got that bullseye just like a Taurus, and I be hitting our targets without it. Said I was running like Forrest, smoking on Forrest. Hey, when life got hard, I had to ignore it. I got that bullseye just like a Taurus, and I'm hitting our targets without a warning. The simple things, that's all I need. My family that cares for me. Your baby girl, I like your world. The simple things, all I need. Hey, the simple things, that's all I need. My family that cares for me. Your baby girl, I like your world. All I need, hey. All I need is those simple things. Ooh, yeah. Baby, you. You're all I need. You're all I need. Okay. Gratitude. So, and then we can go here. And go, you actually go straight to that one. So this one, this song is called Your Present Is My Present. And how this song came about, sorry, I'm getting over an illness, but how this song came about, it was written during the Christmas time, I want to say 2019, during Christmas season. I was really feeling inspired. I was listening to This Christmas by Chris Brown. I was like, I need a song like this. You know, something for the movies. And I was like, okay, so I started to feel inspired with a beat I heard off of this show, The Originals. It's on Netflix. It's like about a vampire show or something. But the point is, they said on there, your presence is my present. And that really hit me. You know, like, I was like, you know, I be feeling like when people are around them, sometimes it's just a present to be in their energy. And that's really like how I am. I really get a high off of being around people and just being in those experiences with others, and I would hope people are like that with me. But that's how I really feel about, like, even this moment, it feels like a high. And it's almost hard to catch my breath. So this moment is like, this experience right now is a present for me. Your energy is a present for me. And we have to take that when, you know, we go around in these experiences, because really those soul interactions are what make a lot of the changes and the soul growth in our life and in our experiences. It's not about what you do, it's like about why you do it. Okay, so let's go. Let me turn this up a little bit too. I hope y'all like it. Seasons come and seasons go, but I've never seen one like you before. You flew on by and blew my whole life. Not everyone can be so lucky, you know. Hey, baby, we gotta cut this tree. You're the air I breathe. Not just on this holiday, I need you every day to open me. Baby, you know it's true. Life's just been best with you. You give me something new. You give me, hey, your presence is my present. Sing with me. Your presence is my present. Hey, let's go. Your presence is my present. Your presence is my present. So can I share it with you? Can I share it with you? Can I share it with you? Hey, can I share it with you? Look, cut these lights, you got me glowing bright. Baby, you know exactly what I like. These feelings are potent, I enjoy these moments. They always make me realize, hey baby, we gotta cut this tree. You're off the air I breathe, not just on this holiday. I need you every day to open me. Baby, you know it's true, life's just been best, hey, best with you. You give me something. Your presence is my present, hey. Your presence is, yeah. Yes, your presence is, ooh. So can I share it with you? Can I share it with you? Hey, can I share it with you? Baby, can I share it with you? Alright, this is my favorite part, y'all. It goes, look, your presence is my present. Your presence is my present. Da-da-da, 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 da, da-da-da, da-da. Say it with me, let's go. Your presence is my present. Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. Hey, your presence is my present. Your presence is my present. Da-da-da, 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 da. Your presence is my present. Your presence is my presence. Da-da-da, 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 da. So can I share it with you? Can I share it with you? Baby, let me share it with you. Share it, share it, share it, baby. Let me, yeah. Your presence is, hey, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Your presence, baby. Your presence. Woo, lost my breath. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you so much. Gratitude. I think we're done. Yeah. You're welcome.
You're so good. That's my cousin, y'all. That's my cousin. There's so much talent here in Tacoma. And Tiara is super humble. She doesn't even talk about how she also gives to the community. She is a head coach of the 253 Air cheerleading squad, and they remove all barriers for all of the young girls or boys that are looking to get in. They will help fundraise so you can have your pads or your pom-poms, whatever you want to do. And so, that's how she's building community in the community, is through her leadership on her cheer squad. So please give another round of applause to Tiori Watson. Amazing individual right there. It is about that time for our keynote, and I'm going to give just a little bit of background context on Mr. Tremaine Edwards. Now, this is another newer face here with the IBJ. We first had him a part of our events with the Let the Kings Talk, which was a gun violence prevention event that the IBJ hosted, and that was a part of our ACES, our Young Adult Leadership Program. We wanted to have a conversation about gun violence prevention. I mean, it's a huge issue in Tacoma. And in the last 2 years, not only Tacoma, but Seattle too, in the last 2 years, we've seen gun violence increase by 50%, and we haven't seen any increase in our police solving those issues. So we thought that, okay, let's take some agency as an organization, as a community, let's have this conversation, and let's let the kings in our community, excuse me, it's lunch, so that sounds lots of, anyways, let's let the kings in our community lead that discussion and tell us what they believe we need to do, right? And these are black men. I mean, it was such a powerful conversation. We also led the conversation with a screening of a local film, which just made it all just so much more powerful. In that panel, we learned that Tremaine is from Virginia, which has experienced a lot of the similar, barriers that people right here in Tacoma has faced. And it just brings us all together to know that no matter where you're from, we can connect. And ever since then, Tremaine's been an integral part of IBJ and our leadership. And I want to bring you now to the stage to take the floor and grace us. Thank you.
I just want to start by saying, whilst I was listening to, which I guess I really should start with saying, I accept that I'm getting older, but also I'm reminded every time when younger people are doing things, I'm like, dang, I am getting older. Okay. But I texted our CEO earlier as you all were presenting, and I was like, I want to hire all of them right now. And she's like, I support you, but also you have to share your budget with your coworkers. And I was like, okay, well, we'll figure them out later. So it was really nice to sit back and observe what you all have discussed. I guess my task today is to ramble enough, and in hopes my rambling makes sense to you, and you feel inspired somehow, some way. So as she said, I'm Tremaine Edwards, born and raised in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I try to fight really hard so y'all don't hear my southern accent as I said y'all, so we'll see how well it works. But I came here and joined the Alliance for Gun Responsibility. This week is actually my year anniversary that I've been officially with them as Education and Engagement Director, so I do a lot of 501c3 world, so that's today, that is what I'm coming from that lens. But I work and lead our statewide field team in the world of policy, so if you have any interest there, come on over. If you want to run, come on over. And then we have a PAC, which also does that world of endorsing candidates who we believe in to do the work that needs to get done, right? Because you can pass all the laws that you need, but you also need good implementers to make sure that they are followed through with. So that's all the realms and the work that we do. I will say, I've known for a couple of weeks I would speak, and I knew what the theme was. And I'm an English major. I went to school for English literature. It's a theater minor. I could connect with Megan a little bit with that as well. And probably for one of the first times in my life, I was at a loss for words. I agree. I was at a loss for words, which is not a normal thing for me. I have made a career, arguably, of being very mouthy. And my mother would agree that I grew up very mouthy. But as I kept trying to think through, like, what would I say? How would I say it? I'm also so used to, doing these in a presentation manner where my staff has built this beautiful presentation and I just read off slide points. And today was a little bit different. And so one day in the office, I was talking with my coworker and I had my document up, and it's probably been the fourth time I had started writing through a speech or trying to figure out what was I going to say and how was I going to say it. And we were talking about some other stuff in the world of gun violence prevention, how it impacts communities of color, right, especially in this state where we are clearly a smaller number of percentage of this state, but in terms of gun violence disparity, we make up a big number of that. And we were talking about like diversity and the lack of diversity even in the policymakers, and going down this rabbit hole as I do often, as one would arguably do often when you work in policy and politics. And I was sitting there trying to type again and still having a writer's block, literally at this point just staring at the screen. I was like, maybe it'll come to me. Mind you, I literally have been working on this all the way until the moment you call my name, because also being inspired every time you all talk the last 2 days, something else would tick in my head. I was like, oh, write that down, use that later. And then this morning I was like, try this, and then you all talked again. It's like, you know what, try it again. Something else sounds great. But the one thing that sparked the whole conversation was they looked at me, it was one of my staff, and they're like, Tremaine, do you know what the opposite word of diversity is? And I probably have never actually thought about the antonym of what diversity is. And I, as a Southerner growing up in the South, gave a very flippant answer to what diversity is. I was like, I know oppression, it's America. And they were like, no, it's similarity. And I never thought about it. And so when they were looking through the words of, diversity and words that are synonymous with diversity, they looked at antonyms. So what's the opposite of diversity? And they said similarity. And then I thought about it, and for some reason it sparked something different in me, right? And the definition of similarity, quite easy, the state or fact of being similar. And in the world of rabbit holes that I go in often, of overthinking everything, I was like, oh, I could use that. And I was like, right, because as black people in this country, right, we've never had anything similar. We arguably don't know what similar is in this country, right? From the very inception, from Jamestown, Virginia, right? From the very origin story of us in this country has never been similar. If we go back to the 60s up until now, the way we've demanded access in this country has never been similar. The way we've been treated, right? The entire life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness has never been similar. And then I went a little bit further, right, which is going to hopefully be the biggest part of my conversation today is, right, because of our diversity, right, we've never been similar, we've never been treated similar. But the good thing about us, the powerful thing about us, right, is that we've also never fought similar. Right? I was hoping somebody would do that. As a little Southern Baptist, I was hoping I'd get somebody like, amen. So, thank you. And so I thought about that too, right, and it's like our contributions to this country have never been similar, and arguably what we've done for this country and building this country. And so then I tried to use that as today's kind of keynote, if you will, my theme of as we go forward, right, in the update of that, right, is to remind people that we are not similar. Everything that we've offered in this country and given to you in this country is not similar, and to respect that. And that everything that we continue to do will not be similar because we have been a creative people, right? You gave us literal scraps and we made entire meals out of it, right? So we have always been given the least and always been able to fight in a different way because we wanted to be similar, right? We wanted access, we wanted equality, but you refused to give us that similar. So we'll fight in a way that is not similar to demand that. So thank you, Carol. Thank you. As the little church boy, me growing up in the South, that's what I need to know. But I won't do the thing my pastor did where he'll say, I'll be brief and then go for an hour. I won't do that to you. I promise. I grew up in it enough. I won't do it. So to using that, right? And going off of similarity and our contributions and our fight, I started to go a little bit deeper, right? And trying to go through this realm of acronyms. I love things that you will learn quite soon about me is I love acronyms as an English student. I love analogies, and if you catch on, I also love alliteration, AAs, all the A's. I love all those things. I love making a point. I love using all those things. It's the arts. It's English. I love doing those ways. And so I went home last night too, and I was like, all right, think of an acronym. How do you make this memorable? I learned through acronyms in those ways, and I was like, all right, well, break down fight. How could you break down the word fight into acronyms? And so today in our fight, right, of moving forward, I thought of how to break those things up too. And so we'll go through those, right? F, focus. Right, as we continue with this update and this work, right, it is important to keep your focus. As someone who has now gone through his first legislative session, the other side is focused. And they are organized more, and right, as somebody said yesterday, right, they want to take us back. And I have seen firsthand through legislative session the things that they say, the tactics that they do, and they are ready and willing at every second to turn time backwards. So we have to be focused because they are focused, right? And our focus here, right, is true justice, no exceptions. And though we all come from different organizations, right, we all still have that focus of true justice. We all have that focus of liberation. We all have that focus of, right, access and equality and inclusion and diversity. So F for focus. And then I thought through and I said, okay, well, I need an I word. I was very hard because there are a lot of I words that I wanted to use. But my favorite that I like to use, because professionally it's my favorite thing to do in communities, especially in the spaces that I live, because gun violence in this state and in this country has become so white-led, that requires interruption, right? So it's important to interrupt. It's important to stop what is happening and then do something about it. Arguably, another realm that I love to live in is RIR protocol, if you've ever heard of it. And it's a very circular motion of how you look at things. It stands for recognize, interrupt, and repair, but I like to say replace. And so it's important to, as you're focused, right, you're focused on what you want to get done, right? And that also requires, to get to true justice, right, you've got to interrupt some things that are currently happening, right? I also wrote down a ton of quotes yesterday because they were all so good. But one of them yesterday was also mentioning, you know, whether from the beginning of this country, whether it was during civil rights, whether it was through 2020 that we all lived through and watched, right, the stories have changed, right? Some things have changed in this country, right? The stories have changed, but the issues still remain the same. And those issues, right, are the barriers. They are still here. They look differently. They have changed, but they are still here because of how this country was built, right? People often say, oh, we need to reform the system. It's broken. It's not broken at all. It's working the exact way it was built. It was a very intricately built system. They knew exactly what they were doing from the very beginning of who was in the room and who wasn't in the room. So it's important to interrupt that, right? We've seen that again now in 2020. We all lived through that together, and maybe we hopefully never lived through another pandemic, and we've learned something from it, right? But we saw the power of what happened when we interrupted things, right? How long has it been since we've had a one-term president, thankfully? My beliefs, that we had a one-term president, right? And things fundamentally shifted across our country, and corporations, and organizations, and funding, and in resources, right? The entire construct of America and capitalism, right? We're often told, right, and especially in the world of wealth building, right, because of so many barriers that have been built, it's hard to obtain, right, wealth, right? It's hard to get all these resources, when the fact is they've got all the resources that they need, and they showed us in 2020 just exactly how easy it was to strike that pen and make resources available. I mean, I'm not going to lie, right? I'm enjoying the pause that is on my student loans, but they've had that power this whole time, and they've told us before we couldn't do it, right? The resources have always been there. So it's important that as we interrupt, we stop what is happening and we do something about it, right? G. Galvanize, right? Galvanize, grassroots. It's important that, right, as you're focused on what you're fighting for, as you interrupt what you see that is happening, right, you galvanize. And I think today you all exemplified a little bit of that on the screen as you went through, right, your various ideas and your projects. All of that, to me, right, is organizing. That's community organizing. The power that is community organizing and what it does for yourself and those in your community, right? But in all those events, right, you're galvanizing people, right? I saw on the screen at one point there was a part there for like IBJ recruitment, right? At the same time where you're having these events, you're also getting people to support the mission and to do the work. So it's important to galvanize. In any fight, you've got to have your own army ready and prepared for battle. As we ourselves are getting ready to go, we all are going into midterms elections, right? And as we've heard the last 2 days, it is important to vote. And I realize that we have probably heard this many generations over, and especially in the last couple of years, that every election is important. But arguably, this election truly is really important. We saw how important 2020 election was, and we did not take that away, but we're also watching right now what is happening in our countries and our court systems, and if one thing can be changed, there are so many other things. If they can get away with one thing, they're going to keep pushing for others. So it is important to galvanize in this fight and to get people involved and to be consistent with that. H, struggled with this one, but I decided to go with hub. Right, finding your hub, finding your community. It's important to have those, right? You've got your IBJs down here in Tacoma, right? And see, I'm up in Seattle, so there's a couple different hubs there, such as our organization, right? But where's your hub? Who's your hub? Who's those organizations and your communities that you can be invested in, right? With the famous 3 T's, I feel like, in nonprofits: time, talent, and treasure. How can you fit in? Get in where you fit in with those organizations. And if there's not one, create one, right? Create what is not there. Thank you. Listen. I'm gonna call my pastor up after. I'm like, listen, I got a couple amens, a couple of people high five for me. I'm not gonna preach in the church though, but here you go. Right? Find your hub. If it's not there, create it. One of the things that we're doing in our organization, right? A part of the reason that I accepted this job, and it is no news to my organization, it's a very white-led organization. It's a very white-led space. And so that was a challenge to me, and I wanted to come in and shake it upside down and put them on their heads. And they have thankfully just stood all the way and let me do that, right? But I've also tried to now, as in our hiring practice and who the next people come on, I want them to be people of color. I want them to be bilingual communities. What are all the barriers that have stopped people from being apart from us? break them down, interrupt them, right? Interrupt what is happening, and then replace it with something else. So it's important to do those hubs. We realize that gun violence prevention has become a very white-led space, but we all know who it impacts more in communities, and it is us. And so we started making new chapter teams that are specifically spaces for Black communities. One of the things I didn't want to do with my staff is to like fold Black people into these already pre-existing white spaces. I wanted to have an entire space for us so that we can talk about the issues that affect us, and that we also become that problematic thing sometimes as a racial lens for the others in the room, where they can go to Google and they can do that homework themselves. We want to talk about the issues. So be the hub. If there's not a hub, create a hub. T, the last of them all, teamwork, right? The good old the good old phrase, teamwork is the dream work, right? We all have to work together to do this, right? I come from one organization, you all come from various organizations, but we all together agree, right, on what our goal is here, right? What our focus is here. And that's what this is most certainly about. And I also want to dive a little bit more into all of that fight, right? All of that relates to me still to organizing and the power of organizing, and what you all did today. As I was reading through it, as you all were presenting, I wrote down in my tab, this is organizing. This is what we do, right? And the power of organizing, especially in this country as we talk about resources, the lack of resources. If there's anything 2020 should teach you is, it's quotes now. They've always had the resources. It is a construct. Money is a construct. They've created these resources. So the same way they created, the same way they can make it available, right? So with that, right, we also, one of the things I find, right, is we don't fight similarly, right? If we go back to the 60s and we go back to civil rights movement and we think about simple things as like the boycott movement, right? One of the things, arguably there were many things that are different now in terms of technology and resources that our ancestors, the generations before us, didn't have, right? They were able to subvert capitalism completely with the bus boycott, right? They were able, in an right, with a community that didn't have wealth, right, who didn't have the proper access to wealth, to still subvert an entire construct, an entire system with their community, right? Community organizing, mutual aid networks, working together in their hubs, right? Getting together collectively because they still had the same focus. If you're catching on, I'm trying to use all my acronyms, right? So they saw what their focus was there, right? They literally interrupted it, right? I imagine at this point, if you don't look it up later, look up the bus boycotts and what that did to this country and how much, right? If you got to play the game, you got to play the game. We know that money is a thing in this country and how it runs things. And so they played the game and they subverted the entire capitalistic system, and it shook things up, right? They interrupted it. They galvanized, right? They quite literally galvanized the people. Hundreds of people, thousands of people walked to places. They marched to places, right? And again, they had their hubs, but they all together worked together as a team. Those tactics are tried and true, and they work. And again, right? Stories change. Access has changed. Things have changed in our country, good, bad, and indifferent, right? But the issues still exist. The barriers are still there. But one thing that I often say, as I go to that point of me loving alliteration, right, we've got problems, we've got barriers, right, but we're also, just as many problems as we have double and triple the possibilities. Dreaming is limitless. So dream, think about it, and how and the different ways that you can have possibilities to address these issues, right? If our ancestors could do it with nothing, and we're able to take down moments in our country that were hurtful, we can do so much more. In an age where we have technology, we have more access to resources than we ever had. Now is the time to continue that movement, right? Let this not be a spark. One of the things that I saw in the video earlier, right? To carry this on, let it not be a spark. Let's not do the thing where, especially in this country, right, we have a moment and we lean into it and then we fizzle away, right? Because the moment that happens, the opposition is ready to jump in and start pulling away things. And arguably, we've seen that since civil rights, right? The Voting Rights Acts and how much that has been gutted and attacked continuously through generations up until now, where we're seeing it play out, right? And different states' governments are putting so many restrictive ways when people can vote. And our parents and our grandparents fought so hard for that thing to not happen again and for it to be repeating. So let this not also, right? Let this not be a spark. Let it be a flame. Let it continue, right? Let it not be a moment. Let it be a continued movement. And that's a part of good organizing, right? Make this be sustainable. And everything that you do, let it be around sustainability. And that everything that you do can continue. Senator Franklin said yesterday as well, right? And pull people, and I think somebody said it today, right? Continue to pull people along the way. I am not old. I am older. I am working on it. But I realize that I am also aging out. There are a generation under me. All of my staff and my interns are Gen Zers, and at the same time, I'm always trying to pull them up and be like, hey, at some point, you're going to take this over, and I want to give it to you now. And something I always tell youth when I'm ever in a space with youth engagement is I always say, you too will sometimes unfortunately inherit this country and all of its problems, but if we get you involved sooner, right, don't feel like you have to wait until you're 30 and 40 and 50 to feel like, oh, now I'm an adult and now it's my time to be involved. I have people that are 15, 11, I've had a recent 11-year-old who wanted to get involved in activism, and I was like, we'll put you in somewhere, let's do it. Because the sooner you get involved, the sooner you know how to get in and change things and interrupt things, the better it can be for the next generations instead of us waiting it out to feel like we get to that age. So I also appreciated in those projects, right, of discussing social activism and discussing the intimidation that comes with that, right? I come from this space completely different. I've done community activism, but I've never done it politically. So for me to move to the entire opposite side of the country, an entire state, and have to learn things over is intimidating, but the fight and my focus was there. And so I knew that regardless of all the challenges that I've had over this last year and having all the 10,000 things I've had to learn constantly, was worth it, right? Because my focus is still there. So make sure that yours is there too. I heard the Baptist thing too. And in my conclusion, because I told y'all, I was not going to do that Baptist thing. I kept my notes, so that would be decent. Another piece of imagery that I got out of this whole 2-day process, right, is I love imagery, I love alliteration, I love all the artistic ways and literary ways of making a point. Right, I also loved the conversation of updating the blueprint to Black excellence, right? Yesterday was the blueprint. Today is the update. And I thought about this one for the last couple of days, and last night it hit me even more as I was kind of talking this through as well. And I love a visual, right? The blueprint. The same way our tactics are still powerful and tried and true in the world of policy and politics, those tactics really never change. We adapt to what technology has allowed us to do, but we still call people on the phone. We still go to door, we still go to events. Technology has allowed us to do them differently and more efficiently, but those tried and true methods that shut down and subverted capitalism with our grandparents are the same things that we still use today. You look at 2020 and what happened in Georgia and all these other states, they're the same tactics that we've been using for time and time again. They work. We just have to use them and be consistent with them and focused and interrupting, and you get at my FIGHTs of the world, right? But also that blueprint, right? We've got it. We've got the structure. We've got the blueprint, right? We've got this beautiful structure that is already there. And, right, I tried to make the analogy of it, too, of, like, all the structures that are in our country, the beautiful structures that exist in our country, arguably, that we built. But all these beautiful structures, right, the blueprint is there, they have these beautiful structures, but they require some renovations from time to time, right? So that to me today was the update, right? The structure is there, the blueprint is there, it's good work that it's already happening. We just want to add a little bit more recessed lighting, and we might want to change those tiles a little bit, but the building is still there, the structure is still there, right? The same things that our ancestors used in the 60s and beyond are the same things that we can use today, right? But we've got technology. We've got TikTok. I'm a little bit older now. I've given up on TikTok, but y'all got TikTok, right? There's all these different enhancers, if you will, that allow us to move forward. And to me, as I read through it more and thought through it more, right, also update to me, the word update implies the future already, right? You're updating because you're getting ready for what's ahead. So may that also be a part of this fuel too, right? That like the updates are implying the future. You're just getting ready for the future and to make it better for ourselves, for your children should you decide to have them, your nieces, your nephews, your community, because that's important. And I promised I was going to do the Baptist thing, but I promise for real, in my actual conclusion, somebody bring the organist up here. Right, get the offering ready, make me get off the stage. I always love to share wherever I go, whoever I speak to, so if you ever see me again after this, you will hear me say it at every single thing that I speak at because it is my founding principle in the work that I do. I am committed to being a lifelong interrupter. I've lived in spaces, white-led spaces, where people have tried to get me fired, especially in the South of Virginia. I've had people write letters against me to the vice mayors and the mayors to get me out of my positions, and I ain't going nowhere. They did, I didn't, right? But I was focused on my principle, and my founding principle that I leave you with, and hopefully it helps you as it helps me every day, is the quote that is true community engagement is about helping the community find their power, which implies, right, the power is already there. You already have the power. And my job is to just remind people of the power that already exists within them and to utilize it to their fullest potential. That is it. Are you the organist? Are you playing me out? The doors of the church are now open. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They're now open. That's it. That's all I have to say. I watched that clock to keep myself together. Thank you all so much for allowing me to be here.
Thank you, Tremaine. I am not the closer. Thank you all. I know some of you have to go. Thank you, Dr. Loveday. Clover Park's president is here and has been with us. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Anjanae in just a moment, but I just wanted to, without glasses, attempt to read something. May I grab those? And it ain't going to work either, so I might as well admit it. First of all, I said yesterday I've been in tears most of the last 2 days, listening to Malik rap yesterday and watching the group perform and dancing with them the best that I could. It just gave me such a sense of, yes, this is what you're being called into. Some of you may know, a year and a half or so ago, after working for Pierce County for 3.5 years, I got a phone call that said, "This is your last day." And it was a really hurtful experience, and it's not over yet. But I'll tell you this, but for that 3-minute phone call, I wouldn't be here today, because the IBJ was born out of that pain, right? And when your purpose is neglected, I think the universe sometimes puts you in difficult and painful situations to turn your attention to the thing you were called to do. I was enjoying the money and being on the 7th floor and having the window office and all of that goodness that comes with the sacrifice that I had made academically, I don't know how many, 20 years or whatever I had put in for school, the degrees and the experience, and you feel like, oh, I have arrived. But apparently I had not arrived at my purpose. And so the universe aligned the circumstances in such a way that I couldn't stay at the county because I had this work to do. I had to turn my attention to young people that needed me, and I need them too, and to families that were caught in the child welfare system. And so for the last 18, 19 months, that has been my purpose. It has gotten me over depression. I was very depressed after that 3-minute phone call. It has gotten me past the anger. Anjanae and I, our first couple of podcasts we did, y'all need to go back and look at those. I was very mad in those days. And you do have to express that pain out in as positive a way as you can, because when you hold it in, your blood pressure goes up, your lungs fill up with fluid. All that illness is unexpressed pain. And so that's why you see me dancing when I don't have any business dancing. That's why I cry and feel a sense of joy, because yesterday and today is the universe, is God's way of saying, you've done well, good and faithful servant. You are in your purpose, and this is the reward of it. It's not money flowing, it's seeing Malik and Kumari and all of you, Halana and Leticia and Jayshawn, let me see if I can get them all, and Jasmine and Andre,
and Brandon and RJ and Killer K and Moses, all of these young people, and Anjanae and Keisha Ray, that's my reward for work well done. I'm surrounded by beautiful people who are in their purpose. Tia is the amazing whiz behind the curtain. And we were gifted with Ryan, who just showed up in my world at the right moment with all this tech skill. And of course, Arthur on our brain trust, and Wanda Thompson, who is my road dog. Is that what y'all call them? Cynthia Tucker from the Colored Women's Club that has opened that space up and made it available to us. This is what happens when you step into purpose. When you take your pain and look at the other side of it and ask, what is the purpose of this pain? Where am I supposed to be that I have neglected? And when you turn toward that purpose, the Dr. Cross and the Dr. Wises show up in your world. The George Zenos back there at UPS, they just show up there to help usher in that purpose. And so, even in moments of pain, don't give up. In moments of depression, don't give up. On the other side of that is a purpose that's waiting to unfold, and it looks a lot like the last 2 days. Very quickly, I just want to talk briefly about the Chimes Family Advocacy Program, because it's the other half of the work that we were called to do. Thank you, Buffy Villa, Vicky Schroger. Thank you. Stand up for just a moment. I want to acknowledge these beautiful ladies. Let me tell you how I ended up meddling in all the work that you two do every day. They work for Pierce County in the dependency area of the county, which is where families who are struggling to keep their children safe and protected, that's where they end up. Some of you know of CPS. Well, they're at that process where the children are being taken into state jurisdiction, state custody, and families are trying their best to get them back. Vicki is a guardian ad litem in that process, and Buffy Villa is one of the supervisors and managers over the guardian ad litems, and they don't call them CASAs anymore. And so I see them, and in some cases, Vicki and I are over on opposite sides of the table. We've done our own little boxing matches in some of these cases where IBJ wants the families back together. That's what we want. And Vicki's saying, but the child's not safe, Carol. The parents aren't ready, Carol. And I'm saying, but Vicki, put him with the kinfolk. Put him with the kinfolk. And Vicki says, well, the kinfolk need to step forward, Carol. Right? So we're both working to get our young babies, our children, our families back together, performing our various purposes in that process. Well, that idea, De'Erica Wagner, stand up for just a second. The reason we're in this work is right there. Last year's design challenge, De'Erica Wagner said, IBJ, you need to turn your attention to the black family. And that's what we did. And so now I'm meddling in Vicki and Buffy's stuff. Because of this process last year, that's when we began to refine it. Yeah. And Santa Peggy, this is what the universe did. It said, oh, you're going to turn to your purpose. You're going to look at families. And Peggy Heard retired just so she could be part of this. Did you know that, Peggy?
No, I really did not.
Too much. No, Peggy. I know you think you left because of the pain. You
left because your purpose was calling you. And so Peggy is our social worker who supervises everything we do for families. I sort of focus in on the legal strategy and support the parent attorneys and sort of push against the system from that perspective. And it's Peggy who goes out and spends quality time with the families day in and day out. She thinks that she retired because she was in pain. Did you hear what she said? She didn't retire because of that. She retired because her purpose at IBJ was sitting here waiting for her to get in alignment. Moses Ramos, stand up, Moses. Come on, I know you're shy. Moses sends a message and says, somebody at PLU told me that I should apply for an internship with IBJ. Moses had no idea what he was stepping into, but he's come out of a very quiet spirit. He did his first big podcast with none other than, who'd you interview? He's gone now. Yes, Amir Abdul Mateen, who you all met yesterday and heard from. Moses did his first podcast with Amir. So thank you, Moses, for being here. All right, I'm going to turn this back over to Anjanae to close us out. But I just wanted you to understand the genesis of this work. It's a prototype, so it's not finished. Every year, there's a different iteration. So if you were with us last year, it was different. If you come next year, it'll be different. George Zeno has promised that, I don't know, George, I got UPS and Evergreen over here. We might have to be at UPS or Evergreen next year. I'm not sure, but we've got to figure it out because we have 3 great academic partners who have made this year possible for us. George is saying, possession is 9/10. We'll collaborate. All right, Anjanae, come on up and let's close out. Thank you, everybody, for today. We've got the room until a little before 2, so after Anjanae completes the circle here, you can stay.
Thank you so much, Carol. Please give it up for Carol Mitchell. We wouldn't be here without Carol. Seriously, and everything that she said is just spot on. When you're walking in your purpose, doors are just going to open up for you. People are just going to start walking into your lives. The stars are going to just start aligning, and opportunity, prosperity are all going to meet you where you're at. So take this example that Carol has showed us as leading with, and apply that to your own lives. I want us to all I want to go back to something that Tremaine said in his speech, and it's really the acronym, and I want you guys to kind of repeat this after me to make it that commitment in your own lives, in your own circles, that I will focus. Say that. I will focus. Okay? I will interrupt. I will galvanize. I will find a hub in my community. And I will be a part of a team. I love that. So now you guys have spoken into the universe. You guys are going to take that back with you in your own circles, and please apply that as you guys go off and, whatever mission that might be, whether it was what you presented today or something else you're passionate about in your own lives, guys. This was amazing. The IBJ is still less than 2 years old, so we're a baby. We're an infant, literally. Like, we're crawling on the ground. I mean, I don't have any kids, but do 2-year-olds crawl and they walk? They're walking. Okay, so we're walking. We're wobbling side to side. We might start talking a little bit, but next year we're going to be 3. We're going to be bigger. We're going to have more people here. Of course, we're going to have the Freedom Summer Symposium again, and we're just going to continue to grow and grow. So stay connected with the IBJ. You guys definitely don't want to miss out on the bigger, better things that we do as we get older, because that's what babies and people do. They get better as they get older, right? So stay connected, stay a part of us, because we're definitely here. We are here for you. last thing, I just want you guys, don't forget to use the IBJ Freedom Summer Symposium hashtag, because we need to stay connected. We want to share our tweets and all our pictures and videos. So if you guys are on social media, IBJ's on social media. We have a Facebook page. Find us on Facebook. I don't know, too, if we have a Twitter or... All right, yes. I mean, 2-year-olds don't have Instagram pages, but 3-year-olds might, so we'll have our IG page up. But nonetheless, still share the hashtag, share your pictures. If you want to participate in the work, you can also do so by donating your time, your talent, and your treasure. You guys may have received an envelope, a donation envelope. If not, we also accept donations via Cash App at $, Institute for Black Justice. Is that all behind me? Yep, perfect. So I don't have to get it myself. It's all right up there. Share this on your social media too, because if you guys want to keep this going, you guys want your friends to have the opportunity to pitch their ideas to some other interested parties, they might want to know who exactly the IBJ is. So share our information with them. We have our doors open. This was just a pleasure to be a part. Thank you guys for allowing me to MC. I hope I kept things a little lively and entertaining for you guys. And as Carol mentioned, feel free to kind of network, socialize. We have the space till about 2, but it was a pleasure. With that being said, we're done. It's a wrap, guys. Thank you.
I'll put those flowers on here.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Oh, one more thing. Whenever you're taking interns, sign me up. I like to work. Oh, that's what I'm trying to do. One of the things that's going
Oh, do you have like a card or something? Do you have a card or something?
Just my IBJ card. Give me 1 second.